Chapter 904, Returning to the Turtle Clan Boom. With a violent rumble, the fingers completely condensed out of energy collided with the sword chi shot out by the twins. It immediately erupted with a terrifying residual energy which shook up the surroundings. It caused space to tremble. The rain of blood had already disappeared, knocked far away by the violent energy. However, the ground below was dyed red, already covered by the blood from the Grand Elder's death. How dare you foreigners! You've killed an elder of my sea goddess Hall. I will not be letting you go, an old voice boomed from behind. It was filled with anger, crushing down with a terrifying pressure. The expressions of the twins and Li Fengxing immediately changed abruptly when they felt the terror of this pressure. Although they could not see the person, they had already understood that he would be far beyond what they could handle. The person is at least equal to Hall Elder. Li Fengxing became stern. Without any hesitation, he turned around to flee, no longer bothering with Jian Chen. Every single moment counted when fleeing away from an expert like that. Any hesitation could result in being caught up. At that time, even if they did not die, they would suffer quite a lot. The Hall's mission was very important, but their lives held even more importance. He's come quite quickly. It's at least a 9th heavenly layer Saint King or maybe even an expert at great perfection. Let's go. The twins had also become stern, unwilling to stay for even an extra second. They turned around and fled, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Jian Chen was intoxicated by sorrow. He raised his head to look at the blue sky while his face was filled with grief. The giant turtle shell had already disappeared from the sky and the Grand Elder's familiar figure was gone too. The only thing that remained without dispersing completely was a will. It was the Grand Elder's will before death, filled with regret and concern. The Grand Elder's soul had been wiped out. Even his corpse did not exist anymore. All that was left was a ground full of blood and countless shattered pieces of palm-sized shell pieces. Grand Elder, Jian Chen's voice was filled with sorrow. He had not met the Grand Elder very long ago, but he had sacrificed his life in order to save him. His soul had been dispersed without even leaving behind a corpse. It was a tragic outcome. What the Grand Elder had paid was something he was unable to pay back even with his entire life. His soul was lost, without any way of recovering it. Even the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force did not possess the power to revive him. Although the origin energy could revive the dead, this could only happen if their souls remained and their bodies were in good shape. The Grand Elder currently fit none of these criteria. A figure quickly arrived before Jian Chen. He was an old man who seemed to be in his 20s and was the Hall Elder that had hurried over from the hall. It was Elder Hong. The elder stared at the ground full of blood with a sunken face while killing intent flickered in his eyes. He said coldly, "The Serpent God Hall and the Heaven Spirit Hall are becoming bolder and bolder. They actually killed one of our elders. It's a pity that I've come too late." Elder Hong floated before Jian Chen. He looked at the sky and gave out a deep sigh. The Grand Elder may be dead, but he's unable to truly rest. His will remains. Elder Hong grabbed at the empty space. The will that floated around in the surroundings quickly condensed, before forming the Grand Elder's hunchbacked figure. He was as faint as a shadow. Grand Elder, Jian Chen could not help but cry out when he saw the Grand Elder's figure. His voice was filled with grief. He knew that this had only been condensed from the Grand Elder's will and would disperse very quickly. It would not exist for very long. I've been useless, unable to protect my ruler. The 30,000 years of hope for the clan has disappeared. That was the message in the Grand Elder's will. It was his final thought before death, filled with great amounts of regret. That was the reason why it could form a will. Don't worry, Grand Elder. I will definitely revive the Turtle Clan. This is my oath to you, Jian Chen said to the Grand Elder's will. His voice was filled with determination. He needed to fulfill the Grand Elder's final wish as he had died for him. The Grand Elders will slowly disperse, disappearing with the wind. From then onward, he had left the world forever. Jian Chen stared blankly at the empty space, without coming to his senses even after a very long time. A while later, he slowly fell to the ground, picking up every single piece of the scattered shell fragments with trembling hands. This was the only thing the Grand Elder had left behind. He wanted to treat it as the Grand Elder's body and bring it back to the clan, before burying it properly. Sigh. Elder Hong sighed deeply as he watched this from the sky. He did not leave and instead stuck around to wait for Jian Chen to collect all the shell pieces. Xiaofan quickly began to help out too, collecting every single piece of the scattered shell fragments with Jian Chen. The two of them spent a total of 7 days before they picked up all the pieces. Jian Chen stored them in a space ring. Jian Chen, come back to the hall with me, Elder Hong finally spoke after waiting for 7 days. Jian Chen shook his head gently and said, No, Elder Hong, I don't want to return for now. I want to go to the Turtle Clan to bury the Grand Elder. Elder Hong pondered in silence for a while before replying, All right then. I'll devote some effort into paying attention to the movements of the 2 other halls in this period of time to prevent them from sending other experts. If you encounter any troubles within the Sea Goddess Hall's territory, just present the medallion from the Hall Master. With that, Elder Hong turned around and left. Jian Chen and Xia Wang also left after Elder Hong's departure. They directly made way for the tribe of the Turtle Clan. The second and third elder were currently discussing something secretive in the Turtle Clan. They had cast down a powerful barrier in their surroundings, isolating their voices from outside. Second elder, the situation doesn't seem too great. A ruler of our Turtle Clan has actually reappeared after 30,000 years. That'll ruin our plans, the third elder said gruffly. The second elder nodded sternly. Problems occurring in the nick of the moment are indeed not beneficial for us. It's fortunate that this ruler is not strong, so the 2 of us can suppress him for some time. However, the Grand Elder has already left with him. It'll be difficult for us to assassinate him with the Grand Elder by his side. If he does not die, the Turtle Clan will end up in his control sooner or later. We need to contact the Taihong clan and get them to follow through with the plan as fast as possible, the third elder said gruffly. At this very moment, the second elder's expression changed. He waved his hand and cancelled the barrier, speaking toward the outside, Didn't I say to not disturb us unless it's important? Reporting to the second and third elder, the ruler has returned, a heavy voice sounded from outside. What? He's come again? Both of their expressions changed slightly as they looked at each other before walking out in unison. Currently, Jian Chen stood emotionlessly in the huge, central square of the tribe as he held a space ring. Xia Wang stood to his side, a step away, observing the surroundings cautiously. Around the 2 of them had already gathered a great group of people. There were so many, to the point where it boxed them in. They were all members of the Turtle Clan and they all looked toward Jian Chen. Their faces were filled with doubt or excitement but no one held any hostility. I feel a weird pressure from him. It seems to be the ruler's chi. Is he really a ruler? Is he really a ruler of our Turtle Clan? The ruler of our clan has finally returned, 30,000 years, a whole 30,000 years. We've finally waited up till the appearance of the ruler. It's time for us to regain our former glory, the surrounding clansmen all discussed excitedly or with mixed emotions. A few of the older members had even been moved to tears. The second and third elder have arrived. A loud voice sounded from the crowd. All the people shuffled as they formed a path. The 2 elders walked in from outside with long strides, while a group of saint rulers followed behind them. Why have you returned? Where's the Grand Elder? The second elder stared directly at Jian Chen. His tone was not very kind. The Grand Elder's dead. Jian Chen's voice was extremely heavy. The two elders became stunned at the same time. They asked in disbelief, "What did you say? The Grand Elder's dead?" The surrounding clansmen broke into an uproar when they heard that. They all revealed expressions of disbelief. Jian Chen said nothing, passing over the space ring in his hand to the second elder carefully. The second elder accepted the ring with suspicion and looked through it. The moment he saw what was inside, his expression changed greatly, now replaced with sorrow. The third elder seemed to realize something when he saw the second elder's change in expression. He immediately became stern, snatching the space ring from the second elder's hands to look through it. He then became filled with grief as well. Just how did the Grand Elder die? The third elder asked sorrowfully. The Grand Elder was killed by Li Fengxing of the Serpent God Hall and Zhou Tianzi and Zhou Yunzi of the Heaven Spirit Hall to save me, Jian Chen said with a deep voice. What? So you were the one who was responsible for his death? The second elder became furious, yelling at Jian Chen as he pointed a finger at him. I was responsible for the Grand Elder's death. But it has already happened. We should give him a proper burial, said Jian Chen. The two elders looked at each other and said nothing. They immediately began to hold a dignified funeral for the Grand Elder. Soon afterward, the news of the death of the Turtle Clan's Grand Elder was spread everywhere. It caused quite a large disturbance in the territory of the Sea Goddess Hall. After all, the Grand Elder was a 15th star expert, as well as an elder of the Sea Goddess Hall. His death was an extremely disturbing piece of news. Hundreds of thousands of kilometers away from the Turtle Clan, 3 middle-aged men sat with their legs crossed in a grand and extravagant castle. We've just received the news that the Grand Elder of the Turtle Clan has died. There's no one to stop us now. Send the order down, prepare for action. A blue-robed, long-haired man said gruffly. The Grand Elder may be dead, but a ruler has actually appeared from the Turtle Clan. Fortunately, he's not very strong, so he can't stop us. However, it's for the best if our clan, the Taihong clan, moves quick. We can't give the ruler time for growth. This time, the speaker was a black-robed, skinny man. Chapter 905. The Taihong clan, the Turtle Clan, is still dealing with the Grand Elder's funeral. We'll head over after the funeral. That way, it'll be even easier for us to annex them. The final man had also spoken. Another great piece of news spread throughout the entire Sea Realm as the Grand Elder's funeral was held. The 8 fragments of the Octaterra map had all appeared, and the 8 pieces would be united as one in a year's time, where all 3 territories bordered one another. They would go on a search for the Octaterra Divine Hall. A huge commotion erupted in the Sea Realm since the Octaterra Divine Hall was about to appear. The Divine Hall had been left behind by the Octaterra Emperor near the end of his life. It was rumored that he went without disciples and always moved alone. As such, he had left his legacy and all his wealth in the Divine Hall. Afterward, he used a great ability as an emperor to hide the hall somewhere that no one could find. Only through the 8 map fragments he left behind could the exact location be found. The Sea Goddess Hall's territory immediately began to churn secretly with the news of the map fragments. Many large organizations and clans began to make their intense preparations, pouring all their efforts into the clansmen that were at the peak of the 9th heavenly layer. They increased their strength as much as they could, before sending them to the Sea Goddess Hall in hopes of earning a place to enter the Octaterra Divine Hall. Many large organizations fought extremely hard over these opportunities. They basically used all the connections they had, and many clans had even offered up invaluable treasures to Hall Elders, all for the hope that the Hall Elders could give one place to their clan. This was because only through entering the hall did people have a chance of obtaining the Octaterra Emperor's legacy. This was a great treasure that could not be bought with money, attracting all the experts in the Sea Realm. It made countless people green with envy. Other than the legacy, there were also chances of obtaining the Emperor's treasures placed within the Divine Hall. All the treasures collected by the Emperor would definitely be extraordinary and invaluable. The entire Turtle clan was still filled with deep sorrow as they were still holding the Grand Elder's funeral. All the people of the clan were heavy-hearted. The Grand Elder was the strongest person of their clan. With his departure, the clan's strength would weaken once more, growing further and further away from how it was like before. 8 map fragments brought together in a year, the opening of the Octaterra Divine Hall. Jian Chen had also learned of this news as he participated in the Grand Elder's funeral. He immediately clenched his fists tightly. I definitely need to go into the Octaterra Divine Hall. I hope whatever is inside doesn't disappoint me. Once I become powerful enough, I'll kill my way through to the Heaven Spirit Hall and Serpent God Hall personally. I'll personally slaughter Li Fengxing, Zhou Tianzi and Zhou Yunzi to avenge the Grand Elder. A sliver of powerful killing intent flashed through his eyes. The Grand Elder's funeral took 7 whole days before coming to a close. However, the clan did not quieten down afterward as a result. As soon as the funeral had ended, more than 10 experts arrived at the clan threateningly. They floated high up in the sky, gazing coldly at all the Turtle clan members from above. A saint ruler said with a loud, clear voice, "We are the people of the Taihong clan. All of you listen up. From today onward, your Turtle clan will be controlled by us, the Taihong clan. You will become part of us. If there is anyone who disagrees," as he spoke, he pointed out and a powerful energy immediately shot from his fingertip, striking a huge rock below. With a boom, the rock shattered in all directions. He then continued, "Do you see that? If anyone disagrees, that'll be your outcome." The Turtle clan immediately became silent. Shortly afterward, all the clan members stared at the people in the air and started crying out angrily. "Their Tiahong clan actually wants to annex us, how dare they? When we were powerful before, the Taihong clan didn't even exist. It's wishful thinking if you want our clan to become a subsidiary of yours. We'd rather die than follow you. We'd rather have the ground dyed with our blood than bow down to your Taihong clan, right? I'd rather die than follow them. Even if I die here, I'll make the Taihong clan pay a heavy price." Each and every member of the clan was aggravated. None of them acted cowardly. The Turtle clan may have declined now, but its former glory could not be dirted. The second and third elder looked at each other before rising up into the air in unison. They faced the people of the Taihong clan together, radiating with a powerful presence. All the members of the clan quieted down immediately as they saw the 2 strongest experts of the clan head out. "Taihong clan, you're daydreaming if you want to annex our clan. You better leave. We will not be bowing down before anybody," growled the second elder. "Right, we're not going to be bowing down to anyone." People immediately agreed from below. Of the dozen or so people from the Taihong clan, the leading middle-aged man sneered, "Does your Turtle clan really want rivers of blood? With the strength of our Taihong clan, we can easily wipe you out. Aren't you going to consider for the clan as the second elder?" This middle-aged man was the ancestor of the Taihong clan. He was called Tai Do and was also the most powerful member of the clan. He was a saint king of the 5th heavenly layer. The second elder pondered quietly before continuing, "If you can defeat the third elder and I all by yourself, then we, the Turtle clan, will bow down to your Taihong clan temporarily." Tai Do laughed aloud. "Alright, I'll fight the 2 of you. Perfect opportunity for me to see just how powerful the defenses of your Turtle clan is like." Tai Do turned around and flew off into the distance as he said that. The 2 elder looked at each other and followed Tai Do without saying anything. Just the residual energy from battles between Saint Kings could flatten the ground completely. If they fought above the clan, it would be a catastrophe. That was why they moved to an empty area several hundred kilometers away. All the saint rulers within the Turtle clan followed along. Only Jian Chen and Xia Wang remained. Do you want to go have a look? Xiaofan asked. Jian Chen shook his head and said calmly, no, because the outcome has already been determined. A violent boom reverberated from several hundred kilometers away and the vast energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings. It caused the sky and the ground to undergo changes. The two Saint Kings of the Turtle Clan had already begun their battle with the ancestor of the Taihong clan. Each and every member of the Turtle Clan stared anxiously at the battle that had erupted far away. Although they could not see the exact details of the battle, the outcome would determine the clan's fate. As a result, everyone paid great attention to it. The fight did not last for very long. The two elders of the Turtle Clan flew over pale-faced very soon. They were in a horrible shape, with residual blood at their mouths. The saint rulers of the Turtle Clan that had followed them to watch the battle were all dejected and down. The two elders arrived back at the clan and said dejectedly, "We've lost." The entire clan fell into a silence at that very moment. All the clansmen felt extremely heavy-hearted. The second and third elder were the strongest people in the Turtle Clan. If they could not beat the ancestor of the Taihong clan when working together, then there was no more hope left for them. The group of people from the Taihong clan also flew over from afar. The Taihong clan ancestor was joyful as he led the group, laughing aloud. According to the agreement from before, your Turtle Clan will now become a tribe of my Taihong clan. We are in control now. Second elder, third elder, we can never bow down. Why don't we just offer up a great price to recruit some experts to help out our tribe, growled a saint ruler of the Turtle Clan. He was unwilling to give in. Yeah, we'll put up a great price to invite experts. Many people repeated this in agreement immediately. Shut up, the third elder was sunken-faced as he said, do you think it's really that easy to recruit experts who can fend off the Taihong clan? And we had an agreement earlier. Do you really want the Turtle Clan to go down as liars? The third elder is right. We cannot be liars. The second elder also spoke his mind, before looking at the ancestor of the Taihong clan. Taihong clan, you've won. From today onward, our Turtle Clan will become a part of your Taihong. Wait. Before the second elder could finish speaking, a sudden voice cut him off. Jian Chen strode over from afar and said with a loud, clear voice, I am the ruler of the Turtle Clan, so I have the right to participate in all matters regarding the clan. I shall now declare as the ruler that we, the Turtle Clan, will never become a part of the Taihong clan. Jian Chen never wanted to be the ruler of the Turtle Clan, but he needed to complete the Grand Elder's final wish as he had died for him. He had to take on the heavy responsibility of reviving the Turtle Clan and returning it to its former glory. The faces of the second and third elder both darkened. The second elder glared at Jian Chen as he yelled, even if I ignore the fact that you haven't formally become the ruler of the clan yet, just your decision is enough to destroy the entire clan. The Grand Elder already died because of you. Do you want the entire clan to go down as well? The third elder also spoke up. He was very rude. Jian Chen paid no attention to the two elders' retorts and glanced at the surrounding clansmen. He said loudly, does everyone support my idea or the two elders' idea? To think that we were once so glorious. We may have declined, but we will never bow down to others. I support the ruler, only under the lead of the ruler can our clan regain our glory. For the future of the Turtle Clan, I support all the decisions made by the ruler. Chapter 906, 5 Years Agreement. We support all the decisions of the ruler. We support all the decisions of the ruler. The members of the Turtle Clan all began to chant, growing louder and clearer each time. In the end, almost all the clansmen began to participate in the chanting, showing their support for the ruler's decision. The second and third elder both became extremely ugly. They had never thought that the situation would develop in such a direction. This was not what they had wished to see at all. We've underestimated the ruler's status in the ordinary clansmen's hearts. He's completely exceeded us to them, the third elder sent a mental message to the second elder. His voice was gruff. The second elder nodded slowly, remaining silent while his darkened face. The past glory of the clan had all been brought on by rulers. At their very peak, the clan had a total of 4 rulers at the same time, and every single one of them was equivalent to a Hall Elder. They were one of the few superpowers within the Sea Realm. As the rulers disappeared, fewer and fewer appeared. That was the cause behind the decline of the clan, making it weaken with each generation. It had already been 30,000 years since a ruler had last appeared in the clan. It caused them to decline from their glorious past to today. They would soon become a second-rate clan that did not even have 15th-star Sea Soul warriors or even a third-rate clan. Their status was teetering. Not to mention the fact that the clan now faced the threat of being annexed by the Taihong clan, they had almost fallen into despair. As a result, the reappearance of a ruler garnered the support of many clansmen, which even made many people believe that this would be the end of their declining days. They thought that the ruler would lead them on the path to glory once again. The members of the Taihong clan all bore extremely ugly expressions, while the ancestor's face became as dark as a storm cloud. He had already used items that tempted the second and third elder to bribe them. Annexing the Turtle clan was also something he had already planned with the 2 of them long ago. It was supposed to proceed very smoothly, yet a nobody had appeared out of who knows where and destroyed it all just as it was about to succeed. It made him absolutely furious. Since the ruler refuses to become a part of our Taihong clan, we can only take action against you. After I capture you, I wonder if your Turtle clan will submit or not, growled the ancestor. Afterward, he arrived before Jian Chen with a flash, directly extending a hand out to grab him. Jian Chen remained calm. He pulled out a medallion from his space ring and placed it before him. He said, "Have a look at this." The ancestor's hand forcefully stopped a meter away from Jian Chen's throat. He stared fixedly at the medallion in Jian Chen's hand while he revealed a doubtful expression. However, his expression changed abruptly in the next moment. He backpedaled several steps, now filled with shock and disbelief. Hall, the ancestor produced a frightened cry. He had already paled. He was unable to say the second word of Hall Master, no matter what, as if it had been lodged in his throat. All the people in the surroundings became suspicious when they saw the ancestor react in such a way. Even the second and third elders were not exempted from this, and they extended their necks to examine Jian Chen's medallion curiously. "Do you recognize this?" Jian Chen raised the medallion and asked expressionlessly. The ancestor of the Taihong clan was still a Saint King after all, so he calmed down very quickly. He sucked in a deep breath, still badly shaken as he stared at the medallion and said, "Why do you have this medallion?" This time, the ancestor's gaze toward Jian Chen had completely changed. "I think you already know why I have this medallion. Do you dare to touch me now?" Jian Chen said coldly. Deep fear appeared in the ancestor's eyes. He took a few steps back slowly as the light in his eyes flickered uneasily. After some hesitation, he said, "You may be a part of the hall and possess quite an impressive status in it, but this is still a battle between clans. The hall will not interfere with these matters." Jian Chen frowned slightly as he heard this, but he did not say anything. The ancestor continued, "I'll give you 5 years' time because of this medallion. After those 5 years, my clan will come again. At that time, it'll be useless even if you pull out that medallion." Jian Chen put the medallion away and said coldly, "Then let it be 5 years. I'll fight you as the ruler of the Turtle clan in 5 years. If I lose, then the Turtle clan will temporarily bow down to you. But if I win, your Taihong clan will belong to the Turtle clan." Jian Chen's words immediately caused a great commotion in the surroundings. A few experts could already roughly feel Jian Chen's strength. He definitely was not a 15th-star Sea Soul warrior, and he definitely could not increase his strength by a lot in those short 5 years. They wondered just how Jian Chen would fight with the ancestor who was of the 16th star in 5 years. The 2 elders of the Turtle Clan secretly rejoiced. They did not believe that Jian Chen could become a 15th star expert in 5 years at all. "Alright, I'll fight you in 5 years," the ancestor said with the same expression. However, he secretly rejoiced. As a 5th heavenly layer Saint King, he had completely seen through Jian Chen's strength. He refused to believe that Jian Chen could raise his strength to a level where he would be able to fight him in 5 years. As the people of the Taihong clan left, the Turtle Clan cheered in jubilation. A few clansmen who did not know about his strength really did believe that their ruler had the strength to fight a 16th star expert. They all cheered, "Long live the ruler, long live the ruler." Jian Chen calmed down everyone below, before slowly scanning past the 2nd and 3rd elder and the saint rulers behind them with narrowed eyes. He said loudly, "Is there anyone else who's unhappy with me inheriting the position as ruler? We pay respects to the ruler." Earth-shaking cries immediately began to reverberate from the surroundings. In the blink of an eye, the area became a black mass as the ordinary clan members all bowed down. Only the 2 elders and the saint rulers remained standing. Jian Chen said nothing. He stared calmed at them with a sharp gaze. His eyes were like 2 drawn swords. "We pay respects to the ruler." This lasted for some time, before half of the saint rulers also bowed down. They accepted Jian Chen's status. Only the other half of the saint rulers and the 2 elders remained standing. The 2 elders revealed ugly expressions. Their faces darkened very much, while the saint rulers who were still standing behind them looked toward the 2 of them. The elders clearly had power over them. "Humph, let's go," snorted the 2nd elder. He turned around and left. The 3rd elder and the saint rulers that followed them did not stick around for much longer either, following him away. The 2 elders understood that they could do nothing now that the situation had developed like this. The ruler had already won the support of the entire clan, so even if they questioned the ruler's identity, it was useless. This was all because Jian Chen's ruler's chi was the real thing. It was not a forgery, and even the ordinary clansmen could feel it clearly. As everything had developed like this, nothing could stop Jian Chen from inheriting the position as ruler in the clan. After successfully inheriting the position, Jian Chen settled down in the Turtle Clan. He devoted all his efforts into cultivation, hoping to break through the 2nd layer of the chaotic body within 5 years. If he did so, he would have the power to battle a 5th heavenly layer Saint King with his king armament. The news about a ruler reappearing in the Turtle Clan spread very quickly. For some time, all the second-rate organizations in the surroundings all paid visits to them with rich gifts to congratulate the clan, but all these miscellaneous matters were delegated to other people by Jian Chen. He did not appear at all, remaining in the beautifully decorated hall to cultivate. The next day, Hall Elder Hong went to the Turtle Clan in search of Jian Chen. When Jian Chen learned that the elder had come personally, he immediately stopped cultivating and received the Hall Elder in the hall. "Jian Chen, is the final fragment of the Octaterra map on you?" Elder Hong cut straight to the point and asked straightforwardly. "Correct, I am indeed in possession of a map fragment." "Has Elder Hong come today specifically for this matter?" asked Jian Chen. Elder Hong nodded with a smile. "I have indeed come because of that today. Jian Chen, the Octaterra Divine Hall will be opening in a year and only people below the 15th star can enter. Each map fragment can permit 20 people to enter, so a total of 160 people will be entering from the 8 pieces. I've come today to ask you for 10 of the chances. Is that fine with you?" "That's fine, of course that's fine." Jian Chen agreed without any hesitation. He only had 3 people that needed to enter, so he had no use for all the chances to permit people in. The Sea Goddess Hall had even saved his life after all. Elder Hong did not stay for much longer, leaving the clan very quickly. With the elder's departure, Jian Chen also continued his cultivation, pouring his energy into powering up. In order to revive the Turtle Clan, he needed to be strong enough. Only power could determine everything. Without him noticing, Jian Chen had already stayed in the Sea Realm for over a month. In the Changyang clan of Lore City on the distant Tianyuan continent, a tower several hundred meters in height had appeared. From the very top of the tower, one could see a large portion of the city. The appearance of the tower in the Changyang clan had caused quite a large disturbance in the city as it had not been built up slowly. It had appeared overnight instead, as if it had just grown out from the ground. Changyang Zhu Yeyun current sat by a window in her white dress at the very top of the tower. She stared blankly in the direction of the Changyang clan's main entrance, while her gaze was sorrowful. She would sit there almost every day, sitting for several days and nights every time this happened. She was unmoving like a piece of wood, completely petrified. Sigh, a long sigh sounded from behind her. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao slowly walked up to the window in a similar white robe, gazing at the misty white sky in sorrow as well. He said, "It's getting closer and closer to the day where Kong'er meets the end of his life. The seal is still present in his head, so he'll never be able to become a saint ruler. I wonder where Kong'er is currently. Is he still alive? Can we ever see him again?" Chapter 907, Return of the Changyang clan ancestor. Currently, an old man flew in the sky several hundred kilometers away from Lore City. He traveled extremely fast, utilizing spatial force as he fused with the surrounding space. He traveled several kilometers in the blink of an eye. Jessen Kingdom, I've returned. Lore City, I've returned. Changyang clan, I wonder if you still remember your ancestor after so many years, said the old man with a sigh as he flew. He was Changyang Zhu Yunkong, who had just returned. He was the founder of the Changyang clan, known as the Changyang clan ancestor by people. Changyang Zhu Yunkong traveled directly for the Tianyuan continent after he had initially left Three Saint Island. He spent over a month traveling, covering several millions of kilometers before he finally returned to the Tianyuan continent. Once upon a time, Changyang Zhu Yunkong believed that he would never be able to return to the continent ever again. As a result, he was extremely excited as well as strewn between emotions when he returned this time. Finally, he could vaguely see Lore City up ahead. As he saw the huge city walls, Changyang Zhu Yunkong's excitement peaked. Arg! Changyang Zhu Yunkong roared out as he was unable to suppress his emotions. His voice was thunderous, echoing in the surroundings and spreading far off into the distance. He seemed to be venting all the steam he had gathered throughout the years. Afterward, he shot toward the Changyang clan like an arrow as he radiated with a vast presence. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and Changyang Zhu Yeyun currently gazed down at the flourishing clan from the window of the tower. Suddenly, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's eyes narrowed and he gently raised his head to stare into the distance. He could feel the presence of a saint ruler rapidly approaching the area, but he paid no mind to it. As long as he doesn't cause trouble in the city, then let him be, thought Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. They protected the Changyang clan, and since the clan was in Lore City, they had vaguely become the protector gods of the city, which even made the kingdom's status increase greatly. I've already successfully become a saint ruler. I've gained another 2 millennia of life. I wonder if my parents are still fine. I need to pay a visit to the protector clan to see them sometime in the future. Though I wonder if they still can recognize me as I am right now. Many thoughts swam through Changyang Zhu Yunkong's head as he flew. He felt conflicted, scattered among many emotions. Changyang Zhu Yunkong boldly made his way into the city, slowly flying toward the bare center of the Changyang clan and landing there. The current Changyang clan is indeed much more powerful than before. All of this is because of my talented grandson. Changyang Zhu Yunkong constantly looked around the rebuilt clan. He was filled with excitement that he struggled to hide. How audacious. Who are you? You haven't entered through the main entrance. Don't you know the rules of our Changyang clan? A large group of guards immediately moved in unison and surrounded him as soon as he landed in the open space. They all wrapped around him aggressively. All their faces were cold. Changyang Zhu Yunkong could not help but smile when he realized the quality of the guards. The guards were much better than before, both in terms of teamwork and strength. Among them, he had even discovered a few Earth Saint Masters. The guards were never this powerful before. Just as Changyang Zhu Yunkong was about to speak, his surroundings froze abruptly. It bound him tightly, even removing his ability to talk. As he was shocked, a white-robed, middle-aged man floated down gently from the tower. He was Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao immediately became stunned the moment he saw Changyang Zhu Yunkong. His eyes were filled with disbelief as well as intense excitement. Although so many years had passed, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's appearance had not changed at all. Changyang Zhu Yunkong recognized him at first glance. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao stared at the old man who had trespassed the clan in such a bold fashion and could not help but frown slightly. He felt an extremely familiar feeling from this old man, as if he had seen him somewhere before. However, he was willing to swear that he had never met this old man. No one is allowed to trespass the Changyang clan. Leave immediately and come through the main entrance or don't blame me for being impolite, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao said normally as he suppressed the suspicions in his heart. However, just as he wanted to wave his hand and send the familiar old man out, Uncle Chang flashed past all the guards in his caretaker's attire, directly arriving before the trapped Changyang Zhu Yunkong. Uncle Chang stared blankly at Changyang Zhu Yunkong. His old face instantly became flooded with emotion as he said with a trembling voice, "Master, Master, you've finally returned, you've finally returned." Two streaks of turbid tears rolled uncontrollably down his cheeks, before he suddenly fell to his knees. He knelt as he said emotionally, "Master, you've finally returned." The surrounding guards were all stunned by this. They looked at each other with emotions of astonishment. Uncle Chang was currently the oldest member of the clan, although he was not the patriarch, even the patriarch needed to treat him politely. Yet Uncle Chang was now actually referring to an old man they had never met in such a way. It made them all tongue-tied. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's complexion changed suddenly. His heart tossed and turned, extremely moved. He stared at the old man who had trespassed the clan in disbelief as he said with a trembling voice, Why, you're Konger." Changyang Zhu Yunxiao had already released Changyang Zhu Yunkong from the bindings as he said that, allowing Changyang Zhu Yunkong to regain control over his body. The white-dressed, elegant Changyang Zhu Yeyun also descended from the sky quickly. She stared blankly at Changyang Zhu Yunkong's old appearance. She too was filled with emotion and disbelief. "Why, you're Konger. Are you really Konger?" Changyang Zhu Yeyun said with a trembling voice. Two streaks of emotional tears rolled from her eyes. She was overwhelmed with disbelief. When Changyang Zhu Yunkong had first left the Protector clan, he still had the appearance of a man in his 20s. That face had been burned deeply into the couple's minds, making them unable to ever forget it. However, now that they had met again, Changyang Zhu Yunkong had become a wrinkly old man. It completely overthrew what the couple had anticipated, almost causing them to fail to recognize him. Changyang Zhu Yunkong stared back at Changyang Zhu Yeyun and Changyang Zhu Yunxiao with mixed emotions. He fell to his knees and said with a trembling voice, "Father, Mother, Konger has been a horrible son. I have made the two of you worry. Konger, it really is you." Confirming his identity, Changyang Zhu Yeyun could no longer suppress her emotions. She shot toward him like an arrow, embracing him tightly. Konger. My child, you've finally returned. Mother missed you so much. Mother had even believed that she would never see you again. Changyang Zhu Yeyun choked with sobs. The joy and other emotions in her heart had completely overwhelmed her. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, who stood to one side, also began to weep. He was extremely moved as he mumbled, "As long as you've returned. As long as you've returned. It has been so tough on you these years, Kong'er. Master, you've finally returned. This old servant thought he would never be able to see you again," Uncle Chang said emotionally. The surrounding guards all watched on in complete astonishment. Quickly, a few smart guard captains guessed Changyang Zhu Yunkong's identity and immediately bowed down. They cried out, "We greet the old patriarch. We greet the old patriarch." The other guards all returned to their senses and bowed down too. Afterward, all the elders and important members of the clan hurried over after receiving the news. They all came to pay their respect to the ancestors' return. "Kong'er, wasn't there a seal in your mind that prevented you from becoming a saint ruler? Why have you now become a saint ruler?" Changyang Zhu Yunxiao asked as the three of them calmed down. He was filled with doubt. Changyang Zhu Yeyun had also noticed this and immediately revealed an expression of astonishment. She said, "Kong'er, you've actually become a saint ruler. Perhaps the seal in your head has been undone?" Changyang Zhu Yunkong thought of Jian Chun the moment they brought this up. He immediately revealed a joyful smile and said, "Father, Mother, the reason why I could become a saint ruler was all because of a great-grandson by the name of Changyang Xiangtian. He risked his life to enter the depths of the fantasy star ocean and obtained a stock of 100,000-year dragon saliva. The grass's power suppressed the seal, allowing me to finally become a saint ruler. Changyang Xiangtian. It's actually him." Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and Changyang Zhu Yeyun both mumbled gently. They both revealed happy smiles, before taking their son into the tower with them. A barrier was personally cast down by Changyang Zhu Yunxiao around the tower, restricting any sounds from spreading to the outside. Inside, the three of them conversed for a whole day. In that time, Changyang Zhu Yunkong told them everything that had happened since he left the Protector clan, and also learned about the most recent matters that had happened on the continent from his parents in detail. That included the matter regarding his great-grandson, Changyang Xiangtian, and the winged tiger god. Even with Changyang Zhu Yunkong's temperament, he struggled to stay calm after learning everything. He could not help but suck in a breath, quickly beginning to worry about the safety of his grandson. After all, the people searching for him were the 10 most ancient protector clans of the continent. Xiangtian, that child is currently in the sea realm. Kong'er, you don't need to worry about his safety for now. At least Saint Kings can't enter the sea realm. He should be relatively safe hiding there. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao comforted him as soon as he noticed Changyang Zhu Yunkong's anxiety. The return of the Changyang clan ancestor caused the clan to celebrate jubilantly. In the morning of the very next day, the king hurried over impatiently after receiving the news. He had come to pay respects to the Changyang clan ancestor. However, when he arrived at the clan, Changyang Zhu Yunkong had already left the kingdom with his parents. They went to the Protector clan to get the great elders to remove the seal in his head. Chapter 908, by Jian's calculations at the same time, in a concealed basement that was several hundred meters under the Huanggu clan, hidden in an ancient forest. Several fist-sized luminous pearls were lodged in the roof of the basement, which added some light to the dark room as they shone hazily. Currently, a girl in yellow robes sat on the ground as she cultivated. She was a beautiful, possessing a face of devastating beauty. She currently sat in the center of the room like a sculpture as powerful and pure strands of water-attributed energy radiated from her body. It caused the entire room to be permeated with a hazy mist, and tiny water droplets had condensed on the surrounding walls. She was Huang Luan. She had been taken here as the disciple in name of the ancestor of the Huanggu clan quite some time ago, devoting her efforts to cultivation in this room ever since she had arrived. At this very moment, the door of the room slowly opened. A simply dressed old man walked in. His appearance was ordinary, but his eyes shone with vigor. His gaze toward Huang Luan hid a sliver of greed and coveting in its very depths. Huang Luan slowly opened her eyes, looking with spirited eyes toward the old man that had walked in from outside. She slowly stood up, before clasping her hands at the old man. Master. This old man was the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. He stared at her with a smile and said gently, "Disciple, how has your cultivation been proceeding? I thank Master for his concern. This scripture of the aqua sunflower suits this disciple very much. In just such a short period of cultivation, my strength has increased greatly. However, since disciple's saint force is water attributed, disciple's speed of cultivation should increase drastically if disciple cultivates in a place where water attributed energy of the world is rich. I hope Master can let disciple go out to find a perfect place for cultivation," said Huang Luan. Her voice was filled with spirit, like the call of a lark. It was extremely pleasant. The ancestor smiled and said, "Disciple, you need to remember that everything must proceed with at a gradual pace. Your speed of cultivation is already extremely fast, so you must not continue with undue haste. Otherwise, it might destroy your foundations. You should stay here to cultivate in this period of time, to prevent the outside world from disturbing you." Master, Huang Luan wanted to say something, but she was cut off as soon as she opened her mouth. "All right, disciple, I won't disturb you any further. Cultivate well. I hope you can reach Saint Ruler at an earlier time." With that, the ancestor left. The doors to the basement closed up once again, leaving Huang Luan to stand alone in the center of the dark room. Suddenly, a book appeared in her hand. She casually flipped through it and murmured, "Why doesn't Master give me the entirety of the scripture of the aqua sunflower? He's only given me a small part of the very start." Huang Luan looked around at the surroundings and a light flickered in her eyes. She could acutely sense that the surroundings had been enveloped by a barrier. The barrier was completely submerged into the soil, so it could not be seen at all. If she wanted to break it, she would need to break through the layer of soil first. This barrier was cast down by Master to protect this room from any external disturbances. But, Huang Luan pondered in her heart. She seemed rather confused. However, she dismissed these notions very quickly. She sat down in the room again and thought, "I'm currently a 5th cycle Earth Saint Master. I should reach the 6th cycle soon with this current speed, before reaching Heaven Saint Master. I need to cultivate hard in the upcoming period of time and reach Saint Ruler quickly. Only then can I help Jian Chen." With a thought, her face darkened. Jian Chen's resolute, handsome face flashed through her head as she began to yearn for him deeply. "Jian Chen, the entire continent is searching for you right now. Where are you? It must be very tough these days." 100,000 kilometers away from the Jessen Kingdom, several tens of thousands of people busied themselves with building the city at the base of the Flame Mercenaries. After these years of construction, the city that was completely made of tungsten alloy for the mercenaries was already 3/4 complete. The city walls were already over 70 meters in height. Although the city was incomplete, it already possessed a mighty presence. The current mercenaries were extremely influential. They had become the most powerful organization in a radius of several 100,000 kilometers. Even the hermit clans did not dare to provoke them over small matters as they had 2 saint rulers guarding them. With their connection to the Changyang clan, it even made ancient clans fear them. Currently, the mercenaries had already grown to over 300,000 people in number. Although they could not be compared to the army of any small kingdom, they were undoubtedly the strongest. Every single member of the mercenaries possessed quite some strength, and any one of them completely exceeded any soldier of those kingdoms. The number of Earth Saint Masters they now possessed reached the hundreds, with 40-odd Heaven Saint rulers. They were the supreme rulers of the region. Yu Yu and Bai Lian currently conversed in boredom in the palace that had already been repaired. The Flame mercenaries had embarked on the right path with constant hard work over these years. In the recent period, the two of them had already delegated many matters to people below, only dealing with a few large, troublesome things when they appeared. As a result, their lives were now extremely relaxing, no longer as tiresome as before. "I wonder where brother is right now and when I'll be able to see him," said Bai Lian with a sigh as she sat at the table. A sliver of reminiscence appeared on her face. Yu Yu also revealed a vague sliver of distress and loneliness when she heard that. She also sighed. "I hope he can return safely. I will always wait here for him and help him manage the foundation of the mercenaries he had laid down. The Flame mercenaries is his. He was once here. Sister Yu Yu, when brother sees how grand the mercenaries has become now, he'll definitely be ecstatic. For the captain of the mercenaries, you've done too much, too much," Bai Lian said sweetly. Yu Yu revealed a sweet smile and said nothing. However, as she stared at the hazy sky outside, there was a sliver of sorrow hidden in the very depths of her eyes. "I was rejected by you not just once with similar reasons. Now, I finally can understand your pains. Before, you seemed to be so glorious, yet you endured such great pressures secretly. I wonder whether you'll marry me after you return and deal with everything. I know that this marriage was set down by father all those years ago. Maybe I've never even formed an impression in your heart. I might just seem more like an ordinary friend to you, but you know, Jianchen, your figure has already appeared in my heart. I can't cast it away, and no matter what." Several kilometers away from Flame City, over 10 middle-aged men on Class 5 magical beasts stood in a straight line. They gazed at the city from afar on a mountain. The Flame mercenaries sure are extravagant to build a city completely out of tungsten alloy. "Just the city itself is an invaluable treasure of the continent," said a blue-robed, burly, middle-aged man with a sigh. "If another organization obtained this much tungsten alloy, they'd probably struggle to hide it. Only the Flame mercenaries dare to act so fearlessly, boldly using it to build a city." A middle-aged man with flame-red hair also sighed. His eyes were filled with envy. The middle-aged man who seemed to be in his 20s smiled weirdly and said, "Everyone, the reason why I have called you all here over such long distances is not going to be as simple as just viewing Flame City." The middle-aged men beside him all looked at each other when they heard that. Afterward, one of them clasped his hands at the young man and asked politely, "Perhaps Prince Baijian has other intentions for calling us over?" "Indeed, I do have other intentions. I wonder if everyone has ever thought about taking the city made completely out of tungsten alloy?" A cold smile formed on Baijian's face. The expressions of the men all changed abruptly when they heard that. Someone said immediately, "Prince Baijian, don't you know about the Flame mercenaries' backing? Our mercenary group may not be weak, but even if we're 100 times bolder, we would never have ill intentions toward the Flame mercenaries." "Yeah, Prince Baijian. Even if we ignore the fact that the mercenaries are supported by the Changyang clan of the 10 protector clans, I've also heard that they have quite the relationship with the esteemed Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Even if we have tremendous courage, we would never try to do anything against them." "That's just looking for death," added someone immediately. His eyes were filled with fear. A sneer formed on Baijian's face. "What are you worrying for? Since I've called you all over to discuss this, I'll obviously deal with these possible fears for you. Yep, the Changyang clan of the 10 protector clans is indeed powerful, but the reason for the protector clan's existence is to protect the Tianyuan continent. They have an agreement to never interfere with anything regarding the continent unless it's directly connected to the continent's safety. I can guarantee you that if people from the Changyang clan interfere with you when you fight for the city, the 9 other protector clans won't just sit around and watch." "Humph, now with the matter of the winged tiger god, there should be quite the disagreement between the Changyang clan and the other protector clans. As for Mercenary City, there's no need for you to worry at all. The reason for Mercenary City's existence is almost the same as the protector clans. Although the Grand Elder of Mercenary City possesses the greatest power and status, everything he does is equivalent to what Mercenary City does. If he dares to interfere with what goes down with Flame City, just the disagreement of the other elders is enough to restrict his actions, even if we ignore whether the Protector clans will agree or not. Bai Jian, are you really sure that the other Protector clans will stop them from interfering? Asked a middle-aged man worriedly. Bai Jian laughed confidently. Don't worry. My father has a deep bond with a great elder of the Yuan sect of the 10 Protector clans. Through this relationship, I've already secretly formed an agreement with the other Protector clans. The Changyang clan is too strong now. Not only do they have 3 geniuses, they've even formed a connection with the Pure Heart Pavilion and the Arctic Ice God Hall. It has technically already broken the balance between the 10 Protector clans. The other clans will definitely not just watch this through. Chapter 909, Qin Qin takes a master. The men around Bai Jian all began to breathe heavily when they heard this. Their glances toward the Flame City that was still under construction no longer possessed any fear, now replaced by an intense greed. Prince Bai Jian, if the Protector clan and Mercenary City really won't be interfering, what else do we have to fear? One of the middle-aged men immediately said excitedly. Even with the entire Tianyuan continent in perspective, a city completely made out of tungsten alloy like Flame City was enough to make everyone green with envy. Let alone hermit clans with saint rulers, even ancient clans that possessed saint kings would drool at it. The reason why they never dared to move against the mercenaries was all because they feared the Protector Changyang clan and Mercenary City. If it were not for these 2 powerful organizations supporting them, the mercenaries definitely would not have the power to keep such a large tungsten alloy mine in possession. Alright, as long as the Flame Mercenaries doesn't receive any other powerful support, we, the Apocalypse Mercenaries, will also take part. Afterward, many of them expressed their opinions. They were each a captain of huge mercenary groups, all with at least 1,000 or even thousands of years of history. Although they were only Heaven Saint Masters, there were many former captains that had stepped down. There were some saint rulers among them. Most of the captains were greatly attracted by Flame City, so they all signed up for the operation to take it. Only a few of them were left hesitating and did not plan to participate. Bai Jian looked at them with some cold intent, before looking toward Flame City once again. He said, the city should be complete in another year's time. When it's complete, it'll be time for us to take over it. I'll invite my father and a great elder of the Yuan sect to personally form a space gate when the time comes and deliver your groups in from several hundred kilometers away. That would be fantastic. With the help from the 2 esteemed seniors, it'll be too easy for our people to get here. The mercenary captains all revealed happy expressions. Beyond the continent, the heavenly enchantress currently sat on the edge of a cliff at the very top of 3 Saint Island. She had placed the simple zither of the demonic cry on a flat, smooth surface, gently playing the strings with her white and elegant fingers. It produced a pleasant sound. She was not wearing her veil, revealing her beauty that even the sky seemed to envy. Her hair fluttered gently in the slight breeze beside her ears, covering up a small portion of her face. It only amplified her beauty. The zither notes seemed to contain an enchanting, sagely tune, reverberating in the surroundings. It was filled with a sorrowful, miserable feeling that was able to influence the emotions of people and make them sad. The notes echoed gently through the area. All the small creatures who heard the sound quieted down, each and everyone stopping their foraging for food. They would lie down on the ground, listening quietly to the music that seemed to be the most beautiful tune in the world. The sadness within it even made some of the creatures tear up and cry. What's with Master? Why is she sad for no reason? Xiao Yu glanced toward the heavenly enchantress location with suspicion. She was filled with doubt. I can feel that Master seems to be very sad and very miserable. It's so weird. Why does Master feel like this? Xiao Qian also said doubtfully as she blinked her bright eyes. They were baffled by why the heavenly enchantress would feel like this with no evident reason. The sad music gradually stopped. The heavenly enchantress had stopped playing the zither. She placed her hands gently on the zither strings, gazing lifelessly at where the sea and sky met. Her face was a mix of emotions. Sigh. The heavenly enchantress produced a long sigh and mumbled, "Do I hate you, or do I not?" She was currently strewn between different emotions. Suddenly, her eyes narrowed. She suddenly looked into the distance and with a gentle motion of her hands, she immediately ripped open space. It quickly formed a space gate. Through the gate, a huge and boundless continent could be seen. It was the Tian Yuan continent. The heavenly enchantress disappeared through the space gate, having already traveled to the distant Tian Yuan continent. Within the Tianqin clan of Walorant City in the Zhuya Kingdom, a young lady current sat all by herself in a pavilion. She played the zither, producing beautiful music which drifted through the garden gently. Although Qin's zither had yet to reach the level where it could control the emotions of people, it possessed the power to influence and affect people's feelings. It could make them become unwillingly intoxicated by her zither notes. Qin's zither seemed exactly like the zither of the demonic cry used by the heavenly enchantress. They were of the same color, size, and had the same number of strings. It seemed like the real thing. "Master Jianchen, just where are you? Are you still well?" Qin could not help but imagine Jianchen's handsome, determined face. She was filled with a deep reminiscence, and perhaps because of her emotions, the music she played possessed a sliver of longing and concern. "Qiner, you're playing here again." A heavy voice sounded from behind her. The patriarch of the clan had arrived before her, staring at her with a smile. Qin said nothing. She did not stop the gentle stroking of her fingers as if she had not even heard the voice behind her. "Qiner, your marriage with the first young master of the Zhuyun clan is in 3 days. Why don't you go and make some preparations?" said the patriarch with a smile. The music suddenly stopped. Qin said with a gentle but resolved voice, "Father, I don't want to marry." "Qiner, you're not young anymore. It's about time you marry. It's a pity that you can't cultivate, so your life is only as long as normal people. Otherwise, your father would not force you like this," said the patriarch. He too was filled with helplessness. "But I don't like the first young master of the Zhuyun clan. Does father want to force me into marrying someone I don't love?" Qin's voice was filled with pain. Sigh. The patriarch produced a long exhale. He did not know what to say in this moment. At this very moment, a vast pressure suddenly appeared. It enveloped the entire clan. Before this pressure, all the guards of the clan felt like a boulder had come crashing down on them. It was even difficult for them to remain standing and they were now all incapacitated. Even the Earth Saint Masters were the same, immobilized by the pressure. In the entire clan, the only person who was unaffected was Qin. At this moment, a veiled, purple-dressed woman descended from the sky. She seemed like a fairy that came from heaven. She was filled with a dignified, divine, and consecrated aura. The woman carried a zither. She stopped 3 meters above in the air, staring at Qin with the only thing revealed, her emotionless eyes. She said, "Are you willing to take me as your master?" The patriarch of the Tianqin clan had been bound by frozen space unknowingly. He stared at the mysterious woman in shock as his emotions churned. He struggled to speak. Qin stared at the woman in shock, before locking onto the zither in the woman's arms. It was exactly the same as the zither she used. Are you the heavenly enchantress?" Qin immediately cried out as she identified the woman through the zither of the demonic cry. The heavenly enchantress nodded slightly and said calmly, "You have drawn me here with your zither music. We're fated to meet. Are you willing to take me as your master?" I'm willing, I'm willing. Disciple Qin Qin pays respects to master. Qin Qin agreed hurriedly. She liked playing the zither, while the heavenly enchantress was equivalent to the god of zither. She had once dreamed about becoming a disciple of hers, so now that the opportunity had presented itself, how could she let it go? You will need to come with me if you accept. You will go far beyond the continent for cultivation. Are you certain? Asked the heavenly enchantress. Qin Qin hesitated slightly. A strong unwillingness to part appeared on her face, but her eyes became determined soon after. Disciple is willing to leave the clan and follow master to beyond the continent. However, disciple would like master to give disciple the chance to bid farewell to her family. The pressure from the heavenly enchantress body had already disappeared, freeing the people of the clan from their bindings. The patriarch in the pavilion bowed toward the heavenly enchantress politely, before turning to Qin Qin. He said, "Qiner, are you really going to be leaving the clan?" Qin Qin nodded resolutely. "Father, you know that I can't cultivate and that I only like to play the zither. Only by following master can my fate be changed." The patriarch pondered in silence before exhaling deeply. "All right then. Qiner, go without worry. Whenever you have time, you need to come back and visit your father frequently. As for the marriage with the young master of the Zhuyun clan, father will talk to them about it and cancel it." At this very moment, a large group of people rushed over from the surroundings. The person in front was the young master of the clan, Qin Shao. Qin Qin immediately informed them of the matter that she had taken on the heavenly enchantress as her master, before bidding farewell to them. She knew that once she left, she would not be returning any time soon. Afterward, it would be a journey of tens of millions of kilometers. Even when saint rulers hurried without any sleep or rest, it would take them over a month of travel. "Sister, brother respects your choice. In the future, brother will definitely become a heaven saint master and come looking for you in the sea." Qin Zhao's eyes were filled with tears. He was extremely unwilling to part with Qin Qin. Qin Qin's eyes also glimmered with tears. She said, "Brother, when you see young master Jian Chen again, please give him this drawing." Qin Qin pulled out a piece of paper from within her wide sleeves, before slowly opening it. To no surprise, the drawing was of Jian Chen. It was him wielding the light wind sword, in a sword dance all by himself. His posture with the sword was sharp, as if every strike was lethal. It was extremely realistic. Chapter 9-10, Violent Movements of the Emperor Armament. In the very beginning, the heavenly enchantress paid no mind to it. She only believed it to be someone else with the same name, but when she saw the drawing, her eyes narrowed. She grabbed at the empty air with her right hand and the drawing immediately flew into her grasp from Qin Qin's hand. The group from the Tianqin clan all became surprised when they saw the heavenly enchantress take the drawing of Jian Chen. They all looked toward her with suspicion. The heavenly enchantress stared at the person in the drawing blankly as mixed emotions appeared on her face. She subconsciously spat out a sentence, "Why do you have his drawing? Master, do you know Master Jian Chen?" Qin Qin's eyes lit up, staring at the heavenly enchantress unblinkingly. The heavenly enchantress returned the drawing to Qin Qin and said nothing. Her veiled face hid all her emotions. Some of the people present immediately began to worry when they saw the heavenly enchantress behave like that. They were afraid that Jian Chen had offended her in some way, which would affect her master-disciple relationship with Qin Qin. Although some of them had thought this, none of them dared to mention it due to the heavenly enchantress' status and fame. Qin Qin gave the drawing to Qin Shao before leaving with the heavenly enchantress after a hurried farewell. They left for Three Saint Island. The sky before the ancient mountain range was wonderful. It was sunny and cloudless, deep blue in color. Groups of flying magical beasts could be clearly seen as they soared freely through the sky. They would emit loud and clear cries from time to time. It resounded through the surroundings, echoing into the distance. The loud roars of beasts could be heard occasionally within the forests, while magical beasts could be vaguely seen as they rushed after their prey at great speeds. There sometimes would even be the vague sounds of intense battles, coupled with powerful ripples of energy. This was a battle between high-class magical beasts, and there was no lack of Class 5 ones. At this very moment, the deep blue sky began to distort violently. With a powerful energy, it ripped open and formed a colorful space gate. 3 figures stepped out of the space gate. The leading person was a white-robed, middle-aged man. He seemed rather ordinary, but he also gave off a feeling as if he was part of the surroundings. He had fused perfectly with the space around him. It was extremely easy for others to miss his presence. After him was a white-dressed, middle-aged woman. She was elegant and graceful. She also carried the feeling as if she was part of the surroundings. However, her presence was much more distinct than the man. The final person was an old man who was covered in wrinkles. He seemed to be past his 70s, and he easily be misidentified as the senior of the 2 people in front. "Conger, do you still remember this place? Our clan is hidden in this space. You can finally return home," Changyang Zhu Yeyun said emotionally as tears pooled in her eyes. Changyang Zhu Yunkong looked around at the familiar surroundings with mixed emotions. He said, "I can finally return home. I can finally return home. Never did I think that there would be a time where I can return home." Changyang Zhu Yunxiao could not help but reveal a smile as he looked at their emotions. He quickly pulled out a medallion and a beam of light shot out from it. The light directly collided with the space several hundred meters away. The space there trembled violently, before it gradually cracked open to reveal a 30-meter-tall gate. Through the gate, simple structures could be seen. That was the location that the Changyang clan of the 10 protector clans resided. "Yeyun, Conger, let's go in." Changyang Zhu Yunxiao immediately led the 2 of them into the clan. A giant, 10-meter-long sword currently stood in the dirt of the forbidden grounds behind the clan. It shone with a bright, divine light and radiated with a powerful sword chi. It seemed like a condescending supreme ruler. The sword was surrounded by an extremely powerful barrier. The barrier completely enveloped the sword, fully locking its vast presence within. However, no one noticed that in the very moment Changyang Zhu Yunxiao opened the clan's gate, the sword had actually trembled by an undetectable amount, despite not having moved even a millimeter for hundreds of years. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's family entered the clan that resided in this separate space. As soon as they stepped in, an azure-robed old man flew over with lightning speed. He arrived before the 3 of them in the blink of an eye. "Yunxiao, you're finally willing to come back. I had thought you were going to spend your entire life outside," said the old man. There was nothing special to his voice, but he constantly stared at Changyang Zhu Yunkong with deep old eyes. He was filled with both surprise and doubt. Grandson has successfully brought Conger back from outside. "Conger, why don't you quickly pay your respects to your great-grandfather?" Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's voice was filled with emotion. The old man was Changyang Zhu Xiao. He was the most senior member of the Zhu branch in the Changyang clan. Although he was a great elder like Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, the difference in their age was around a millennia. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao was a descendant of his. "What did you say?" He's Conger." Changyang Zhu Xiao was filled with shock as he stared blankly at the old Changyang Zhu Yunkong. Changyang Zhu Yunkong took a step forward. Just as he was about to pay his respects to Changyang Zhu Xiao, a supreme sword chi suddenly erupted from the very depths of the clan. The entire space was greatly affected, beginning to tremble violently. Pitch-black spatial cracks began to crisscross in the sky, as if the entire region faced the threat of collapsing. Changyang Zhu Xiao suddenly raised his head and stared toward the depths of the clan. Currently, his deep eyes shone with a bright light as he growled, "Crap, the Emperor armament has begun to react violently. Yun Shao, come with me to suppress the armament or the entire space is going to collapse. Changyang Zhu Shao transformed into a streak of light, shooting toward the forbidden grounds at the rear of the clan. At the same time, the other great elders all made their way to the forbidden grounds as well. All of them were extremely grim. Changyang Zhu Yunshao did nothing. He stood there stock still as he stared blankly in that direction. He murmured, why is this happening? The Emperor armament has existed for several hundreds of thousands of years, but this has never happened before. Why has it awakened violently twice in less than 2,000 years? And in those two times, Changyang Zhu Yunshao stopped talking and looked toward Changyang Zhu Yunkong. His emotions were mixed. Changyang Zhu Yeyun's expression also became miserable as tears glimmered in her eyes. She said painfully, why would the Emperor armament suddenly react violently as soon as Kong'er has returned? Is it perhaps really as the clansman described it all those years ago? That Kong'er is really a calamity to the clan, that his existence will only bring disasters to the clan? The trembling of the space became even more violent. All the members of the clan were greatly alarmed as they stopped their cultivation to look at what was happening in the forbidden grounds. Crap, the Emperor armament has almost broken free. Everyone at Saint Ruler has rushed over to help. Yun Shao, why don't you come? Changyang Zhu Shao voice boomed from within the forbidden ground. It was filled with a sense of urgency. Changyang Zhu Yunkong stared fixedly in the direction of the forbidden grounds. The light in his eyes flickered as he revealed a doubtful expression. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's face was filled with pain. He slowly grabbed Changyang Zhu Yunkong's shoulder and said remorsefully, Kong'er, let's back out. He left the Changyang clan space with Changyang Zhu Yunkong. The moment they left the space, the Emperor armament that had moved violently in the forbidden grounds gradually calmed down, before quieted down completely. It was as if nothing had even occurred in the first place. All the members of the Changyang clan could not help but relax slightly now that the Emperor armament had calmed down once again. Only Changyang Zhu Yeyun and Changyang Zhu Yunshao were filled with absolute grief, unable to cheer up no matter what. The great elders all walked out from the forbidden grounds, covered in sweat. Every single one of them was still in a state of shock. They were unable to suppress the armament even when they worked together earlier, and once the Emperor armament broke free, the space would have been destroyed. They all struggled to imagine just how catastrophic it would have been for the clan. Weird. The Emperor armament has never behaved like this before, so why has it behaved violently twice recently? The first time was because a clansman trespassed the forbidden grounds, so why has it happened this time? A great elder asked doubtfully. Changyang Zhu Shao seemed to think of something when he heard that. His expression changed immediately as he cried out involuntarily, perhaps it's because what? Changyang Zhu Shao, do you know the reason why the Emperor armaments suddenly behaved so violently? A great elder immediately asked. The rest of them all looked toward Changyang Zhu Shao. The light in Changyang Zhu Shao's eyes flickered uneasily. He said nothing, directly heading toward the entrance of the clan. The other great elders all looked at each other, before following behind him closely. They left the clan together, and when they arrived outside, they saw Changyang Zhu Yunshao, Changyang Zhu Yeyun and Changyang Zhu Yunkong at first glance. They recognized Changyang Zhu Yunkong's identity very quickly. Yunkong, so it's you. I finally understand why the Emperor armament suddenly began to behave so violently when everything was well. It's all because of you, a great elder growled. His complexion was not good. In all these years, the Emperor armament has only behaved so violently twice. The first time was because you trespassed the forbidden grounds and disturbed it, while the second time was because you entered the clan today. Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Yeyun's expressions became extremely ugly. They were filled with pain. Perhaps the clansmen are right, that Changyang Zhu Yunkong is a calamity of the Changyang clan? That he'll only bring disaster to the clan? As soon as he steps into the clan, he faces the rejection of the Emperor armament, and as soon as it breaks free, it'll be an apocalyptic disaster for the clan, said another great elder. His gaze toward Changyang Zhu Yunkong immediately became rather hostile. Sigh. Changyang Zhu Shao exhaled deeply. His face was filled with helplessness as he said, "Konger, you can never step back into the clan again." Chapter 9:11. The Beast God Continent gathers near the sea realm. Changyang Zhu Zhao's words were like an imperial edict. It removed all possibilities of Changyang Zhu Yunkong ever stepping back into the clan, which made Changyang Zhu Yeyun and Changyang Zhu Yunshao pale in that instance. This was because they knew that from now onward, their son could never enter the clan ever again. Changyang Zhu Yunkong did not seem to hear what Changyang Zhu Zhao's words. He stared blankly at the forbidden grounds in the depths of the clan while his face was filled with confusion. "Great elders, please remove the seal in Konger's head, as you have promised," said Changyang Zhu Yeyun as she endured the pain in her heart. He has actually broken through to Saint Ruler. How's that possible? A great elder said in surprise when he finally discovered that Changyang Zhu Yunkong had broken through to Saint Ruler. Afterward, Changyang Zhu Yunkong narrated how he had managed to break through. The great elder's doubts disappeared when they learned that he had actually used a stock of 100,000-year dragon saliva to temporarily suppress the seal's power. "Konger may not be able to enter the clan, but he's still a member of our clan. Let's work together and remove the seal in his head," Changyang Zhu Yunshao said depressingly. "Since he has already become a Saint Ruler, there's no need for us to worry that he'll pass away from age for now. In my opinion, we should leave the seal in his head for now and remove it when he brings back his descendant Changyang Xiangtian. That way, he'll be redeeming himself and he'll be able to give an explanation to the tens of thousand clan members. After all, he has caused quite the trouble by agitating the Emperor armament with his return," Changyang Qingyun muttered. The expressions of Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Yeyun abruptly changed when they heard that. Even Changyang Zhu Zhao's expression became rather ugly. "Elder Yun, I don't think that would be great. Last time in Lore City, we had dismissed Konger's punishment before the other protector clans. Now that the punishment is gone, why can't we remove the seal in Konger's head? Do you know that the seal's existence will prevent him from strengthening? Do you know how big of an obstruction it is to his cultivation?" Changyang Zhu Yunshao growled. "Elder Yun, I also feel like we should remove Konger's seal," Changyang Zhu Shao said as well. The seal had originally been placed down by the 7 on them, so they needed all 7 of them to remove it as well. "Everyone, I wonder what your opinions on this matter are." Changyang Qingyun looked toward the others. "I agree with Elder Yun, I also agree with Elder Yun." After a period of silence, all the other great elders voiced their opinions. They actually all agreed with Changyang Qingyun's suggestion. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's face immediately sunk. He became absolutely furious. "Since everyone else agrees with me, we'll leave it at that. The day we remove the seal in his head will come when he brings back Changyang Xiangtian," said Changyang Qingyun with a smile. Afterward, he left with the other elders. Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Shao floated in the air with sunken expressions. They were enraged, while Changyang Zhu Yeyun sobbed by herself. She had originally thought that the great elders would remove the seal in his head immediately as soon as she brought Changyang Zhu Yunkong back, but never did she think it would end up like this. They've gone overboard. Changyang Zhu Yunshao clenched his fists tightly. He was utterly enraged, to the point where he had even begun to tremble slightly. Changyang Zhu Shao sighed deeply. He was filled with helplessness as he exhaled. It's all because of the winged tiger god. In the end, Changyang Zhu Yunkong's seal was not removed, nor could he return to the clan. Under these circumstances, all he could do was return to Lore City and stay there as the esteemed and respected ancestor of the Changyang clan. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and Changyang Zhu Yeyun did not return to the clan either after their disappointment. They chose to stay in Lore City with their son. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. Jian Chen currently sat on a small mountain completely formed from grand-quality crystal coins in a secret room below the Turtle Clan. The sword spirits hovered above his head, assisting Jian Chen with the refinement of the coins into the purest energy possible. The grand-quality crystal coins were all condensed from extremely pure water-attributed energy of the world. They possessed similar effects to monster cores and were able to increase Jian Chen's rate of cultivation. These crystal coins were all obtained by Jian Chen in exchange for an opportunity to enter the Octaterra Divine Hall. Each Octaterra map fragment could let in 20 people, and Jian Chen had already let the Sea Goddess Hall take 10 of them. The other 10 completely belonged to him. Newbies, Xiaofan and him would only take up 3 spots, so he put the other 7 spots on sale. He exchanged the spots for some of the things he needed. For these opportunities, the only 2 9th heavenly layer Saint Ruler elders in the Turtle Clan came looking for Jian Chen. They wished to obtain a chance to enter the Divine Hall, but no matter what they said, they got nothing from Jian Chen. This was because the 2 of them were under the 2nd and 3rd elder, a part of the group that had initially opposed Jian Chen's succession as ruler. Jian Chen obviously would not waste any valuable spots on these people. He was more willing to exchange them for things that he needed himself. Jian Chen did not even consider bribing them because he felt like he had no need to do that at all. He did not come to the Turtle Clan to actually become some ruler but to complete the Grand Elder's final wishes. The 7 spots were all sold off in a mere 3 months. Jian Chen used 3 of the spots to exchange for vast quantities of grand-quality crystal coins, while he used the other 4 to exchange for 4 materials used to forge the azulate swords. After so many years of exhaustive search, Jian Chen had already collected more than 10 of the materials. He only lacked 4 of them, but he already had an idea for one of the 4. It was the Heaven's Soul Stone from the Yama Hall of the 3 great assassination organizations. I'll definitely be paying a visit to Yama Hall after I become powerful enough, thought Jian Chen. At the same time, a vast and powerful presence suddenly emerged from the 98th floor of the Beast God Hall. It was like the gradual awakening of a primordial beast, radiating with a terrifying pressure. It caused the weather to change and the entire continent was affected. All the magical beasts trembled helplessly on the ground, while great fear and dread appeared in their eyes. In an instant, all 97 other people cultivating in the hall opened their eyes. They all looked toward the 98th floor, some happy while others down. Kaiser's actually broken through. Now, our disparity in strength is becoming greater and greater, murmured a ruddy old man as he raised his head on the 97th floor to look at the 98th floor. He frowned slightly. He was one of the 3 emperors of the Beast God continent, Saint Emperor of the Peng clan, Zhangqiong. On the 96th floor, Tiger King Lankiros suddenly rose from the ground. A smile formed on his face. 5 years have elapsed. Kaiser is finally coming out of seclusion. A burly, 3-meter-tall man emerged slowly from the 98th floor of the hall. His appearance did not stand out at all, but his eyes were extremely sharp, like drawn swords. Just his gaze gave people the feeling that it could pierce through steel. It was that shocking. It would have been frightening if someone stared into his eyes. A bold aura wrapped around the man. It filled the entire hall, enveloping all 98 floors with his great presence. Just his presence possessed the might to cause the world to tremble. This man was the ruler of the Beast God continent. He was undoubtedly the most powerful person on the continent. Kaiser, you've finally come out, Lankiro's voice resounded from outside. Kaiser strode out of the hall. With his every step, the hall would tremble slightly. If it were not for the fact that the hall had been built solidly, it probably would have been reduced to dust long ago. Lankiros, come with me to the Tian Yuan continent for the winged tiger god. Humph, I'd like to see who'll be stopping us this time. Kaiser's voice was filled with arrogance, as if he looked down on everyone in the world. Kaiser, there has been some changes to the situation. Jian Chen's taken the winged tiger god into the sea realm, so it's no longer on the Tian Yuan continent anymore, growled Lankiros. The sea realm. Kaiser frowned slightly when he heard that. After some slight thought, he said, then let's head to the sea realm. Kaiser then looked toward the 97th floor and said with a heavy but clear voice, Zhangqiong, come with us to the sea realm for the winged tiger god. The winged tiger god is the god of the magical beast race. We have no right to interfere with anything the beast god does, unless it faces a life-threatening danger. Otherwise, I will not be interfering with anything relating to the beast god, Zhangqiong's ancient voice boomed from the 97th floor. Kaiser's eyes became slightly cold but he said nothing. He departed the continent with Lankiros, 2/3 of all the experts in the hall, and all the experts in their factions. They proceeded toward the sea realm. Even though the beast god continent was extremely far away from the sea realm, it was nothing to Kaiser and Lankiros, who were both saint emperors. They directly ripped open space and formed a space gate, traversing tens of millions of kilometers with a single step. They arrived in the sky above the sea realm. Thousands of experts who were at least saint ruler gathered in the sky. They radiated with a terrifying might that caused the water below to sink by 10 meters. Kaiser floated above condescendingly and stared down at the seawater coldly. He growled, there's a barrier cast down by the sea goddess in the ancient times. I wonder how powerful it still is after so many years. Let's find out today. With that, Kaiser's eyes immediately began to glow, narrowing instantly. He grabbed at the empty space and the entire region darkened with his hand. The weather conditions changed with a flip of that hand. Vast quantities of world force poured toward his hand, before condensing into a giant, 10-meter-long spear. It shot toward the barrier that encased the entire sea realm with a terrifying force. Chapter 9:12. The sea goddess appears. As the #1 expert of the beast god continent struck out, he immediately attracted the attention of all the people from the beast god continent. This included Tiger King Lankiros. They all stared fixedly at Kaiser's attack. The spear condensed from Kaiser's great strength directly tore through space. It shot down into the ocean with an unstoppable force, cracking open the space wherever it passed by. The spear remained in mid-air. It had not even touched the water, yet its terrifying pressure had pushed all the water to expand in the surroundings, lowering the surface of the water below it. As the spear touched the water directly disappeared. It revealed a dark hole that directly led to the bottom of the ocean. At that very moment, a blue pillar of light shot out from the barrier that encased the sea realm. It directly collided with Kaiser's spear. Boom! With a great rumble from the sea, the surface of the water began to churn. It abruptly shot up and was actually knocked thousands of meters into the air by the violent energy ripples, unfolding on a magnificent scale. A blue barrier rose from the depths of the sea. The barrier that protected the entire sea realm expanded to countless times its previous size in that instant and rose above the water. The sea water was actually pushed into the surroundings by the suddenly rising barrier and caused the surface to begin tossing and turning. It formed a huge wave several hundred meters in height, rippling off in all directions. People of the beast god continent, leave. The world of my sea race is not one that you can trespass. A sound voice resounded from ahead. A blurry figure could be vaguely seen in the huge barrier. The figure was elegant and graceful. It was the figure of a woman. Who are you? Kaiser stared fixedly at the figure that was virtually a part of the barrier. His voice was deep while his expression was grim. Lankiro's face sank abruptly. He could actually feel a grand pressure from the figure even though he was a saint emperor. The pressure was so great that it shocked him. Even before Kaiser, he had never experienced something so great. I think you already have the answer as to who I am. I don't want to make it difficult for you. You can leave. No one can invade the world of my sea race, a soft voice rang out again. The woman in the barrier had actually taken a step and had left the barrier. She formed an illusionary figure in the middle of the air that was extremely blurry. You're the sea goddess. You're not dead yet? Kaiser's face sank. He suffered quite the psychological blow when he found out that the sea goddess was not dead yet. This had shocked him greatly. Correct. I'm indeed still alive, the sea goddess said softly. Kaiser stared fixedly at the illusionary figure and seemed to think of something. His eyes immediately lit up as he sneered, Sea goddess, since you're not dead, why haven't you come out personally and only sent this soul? Perhaps, only your soul remains now? My soul is enough to stop you from entering, said the sea goddess. Her voice was calm and emotionless. Impossible. Even if you had surpassed Saint Emperor, it's impossible for you to live so long. Sea goddess, if I've guessed correctly, then you've actually died long ago. Just for some reason, your soul did not disperse and survived till today. Am I right? Too bad, you can't threaten us at all in the form you are in right now. A sneer formed on Kaiser's face. The fear in his heart gradually disappeared. The barrier of the sea realm took me 100 years to cast down. I can use the power of the barrier at will, even if I'm just a soul. You're not my opponent, said the sea goddess. Is that so? Kaiser's lips formed a cold smile. I'd like to see whether your barrier from all those years ago can withstand an attack from Lankiros and me. A powerful presence radiated from his body, which caused the surrounding energy to become violent. Vast quantities of world force quickly began to gather toward Kaiser. At the same time, a towering presence began to radiate from Lankiros as well. His two arms immediately began to bulge, ripping through his clothes. They transformed into two golden tiger paws, while invisible world force gathered around them. Do it! Kaiser shouted. Together with Lankiros, they struck out powerfully and directly surged toward the sea goddess. The space up ahead immediately became a wall of darkness. The attacks from the two Saint Emperors had shattered and collapsed it. The attacks directly passed through the sea goddess body and struck the barrier behind her forcefully. With a violent rumble, the barrier only rippled. It did not even tremble, easily resisting the attacks from the two Saint Emperors. Violent ripples of residual energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings. It immediately knocked back the 1,000 or so Class 7 and Class 8 magical beasts from the Beast God continent. It's useless. Unless you surpass the realm of saints and reach the origin realm, you won't be able to break through the barrier I've cast down. Even if all three Saint Emperors of the Beast God continent come, it's useless. The sea goddess voice rang in Kaiser and Lankiro's ears. The two of their faces darkened greatly. After a period of silent thought, Lankiro spoke out, Sea goddess, we have no intentions of invading the sea realm. Our great beast god has appeared in the sea realm. We only want to take him back from the sea realm. The rules of my sea realm do not change. Only magical beasts below Class 8 can enter. It doesn't matter who it is, those who are Class 8 and above are forbidden, said the sea goddess. Alright, then we'll send in some peak Class 7 magical beasts into the sea realm. I hope the sea goddess makes it convenient for us and assists us in finding the beast god. My beast god continent will be extremely grateful, Lankiro said emotionlessly. The beast god of your continent has nothing to do with me. After your people enter the sea realm, they will be in charge of their fates. I will not be helping you, said the sea goddess. With that, Kaiser and Lankiros both revealed ugly expressions. Also, the person you're searching for isn't as simple as you think. Unless Class 8 magical beasts head out personally, you won't be able to handle him at all. You should decide yourselves if you want to send experts into my sea realm. The sea goddess turned around and re-entered the barrier after she threw that down. She fused with the barrier once again. Kaiser clenched his fist tightly as stared coldly at the sea goddess back. He growled, "There will be a day where I break through the realm of saints and reach that legendary origin realm. At that time, I'll definitely be smashing through your barrier. Let's go." Kaiser immediately began to return to the beast god continent with his experts after he threw that threat down. The sea goddess' gentle voice rang out in the surroundings once again after their departure. Her voice was filled with reminiscence and pity. "Do you really think that realm of saints is really that easy to break through? In the ancient times, there were plenty of people who had reached the peak of Saint Emperor, but there were only a tiny amount who truly broke through to the origin realm. Not to mention, it's no longer possible to break through now, unless the world returns to how it was like before in the ancient times. In the distant north from the Tianyuan continent, there was a snow-white world. There were mountains of crystal-like ice formed from the cold as far as the eye could see. The ice radiated with a frigid aura. The snow and ice never melted there and had already existed for countless years. The climate there was so cold that no ordinary people could endure it. Even Earth Saint Masters would not be able to exist for too long in that climate. The cold wind whistled like the howls of ghosts. A visible, white gas was constantly blown around by the wind. The white gas was extreme frigid qi. It was so powerful that it had reached a startling level. Even Heaven Saint Masters would be frozen up instantly if they came into contact with it, and they would never to be able to break free again. Only saint rulers could withstand it. This was the Arctic, the desolate Arctic. Currently, a huge divine hall stood quietly in the depths of it. The hall was extremely large, over tens of thousands of meters both long and wide. It stood there silently like a sleeping primordial beast. It radiated with a great aura. Currently, a woman laid quietly on a bed carved from 10,000-year profound ice as she was enveloped by an extreme frigid qi. The woman was completely snow-white. Not only were her clothes white, even her long hair and eyelashes were snow-white. She was Changyang Mingyue, the holy maiden of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. The extreme frigid qi was slowly absorbed by her. The presence that radiated from her strengthened by a significant amount after she had absorbed the extreme frigid qi, and even the frigid qi on her thickened. Changyang Mingyue's long eyelashes trembled gently. She finally opened her eyes slowly and rose up from her bed of ice. She allowed the terrifying coldness that radiated from the bed to brush up against her thin-looking body. Protector Shui, Changyang Mingyue's mouth moved slightly as she spoke gently in the empty room. "This one greets the Holy Maiden." An icy voice appeared out of nowhere. A person completely clad in snow-white armor suddenly appeared in the room. She knelt on a single knee courteously. Her body stature was elegant and graceful. Although her appearance could not be seen through her helmet, it was not hard to tell that she was a woman. "Protector Shui, just how long do I need to stay here? I really want to return home and see my family." Changyang Mingyue seemed lonely. Her heart was filled with attachments. "Holy Maiden, your profound ice body has yet to awaken completely. You can't leave the hall right now," Protector Shui said icily and without any emotion. Her eyes were so cold that she seemed like an emotionless, cold-blooded creature. "Just how long will it take before my profound ice body fully awakens?" Changyang Mingyue asked. "This one does not know. It will all depend on the Holy Maiden," said Protector Shui. "My youngest brother currently faces the pursuit of the 10 Protector clans and the Beast God continent. His life is in constant danger, and things have also happened to Father. I don't care, I'm going to Lore City immediately." Changyang Mingyue's voice was filled with worry as she directly made her way for the outside. Protector Shui appeared before Changyang Mingyue out of nowhere and blocked her. She said, "Holy Maiden, you can't leave the hall right now." "Protector Shui, since I'm your Holy Maiden, you must listen to my orders. I order you to get out of the way immediately. I want to go right now. A sliver of anger appeared on Changyang Mingyue's face. This one cannot do that, Protector Shui said before slowly backing out. Changyang Mingyue immediately made her way for the door, but as soon as she arrived there, it had been sealed up by an invisible energy. It prevented her from leaving. Protector Shui, why do you trap me here? Changyang Mingyue said furiously. Her voice was filled with panic. Protector Shui stood outside the door as she stared at Changyang Mingyue. Holy Maiden, before your profound ice body fully awakens, this one cannot let you leave the hall. Protector Shui, I beg you. Please, let me out. I really miss home. I really miss my mother and my younger brother. 2 streaks of tears ran down from Changyang Mingyue's eyes as they radiated with a certain coldness. Her tone was close to pleading. Changyang Mingyue knew that in the hall, the protector that stood before her possessed the greatest status. In the hall, she was equivalent to a god. Protector Shui stared blankly at Changyang Mingyue. She could feel Changyang Mingyue's pain. Holy Maiden, you've changed. This one remembers that you were not like this before. You never cried over those mortals' matters. Protector Shui looked at her with mixed emotions. Afterward, she sighed gently and said, Holy Maiden, I was ordered to stay here and wait. Only after over 3 million years did you descend. In this crucial moment, I can't let anything happen to you. Before your profound ice body awakens, this one definitely will not let you leave. Even if this one has to offend the Holy Maiden, this one will not change her mind. Don't worry about your family. They're all safe and your youngest brother is extremely safe. He has already found refuge in the sea realm, with the sea goddess secretly helping him. He won't be encountering any dangers. And your father is going to be revived by your brother's radiant arts soon. Really? Protector Shui, is that true? You can sense the circumstance that my family and my brothers are in? Changyang Mingyue stared at Protector Shui as the light in her eyes flickered. Protector Shui said, Holy Maiden, there's nothing this one does not know about this world. With that, she seemed to think of something and the light in her eyes dulled. She thought, Holy Maiden, I hope you can sever your relationship with your brother early. Because in the future, you may end up in conflict and be at each other's lives. Chapter 9:13, Opening of the Octaterra Divine Hall. In the blink of an eye, the time for the opening of the Octaterra Divine Hall had arrived. Jian Chen, Nubis, and Xia Wang all left the Turtle Clan to gather at the Sea Goddess Hall. Jian Chen still possessed the status of a guest in the Sea Goddess Hall, so he had his area for cultivation. Currently, the 3 of them sat in the hall as they conversed and discussed about entering the Octaterra Divine Hall. Nubis had left the Saint Artifact half a year ago. When they were previously faced with the pursuit of the experts from the Serpent God Hall and Heaven Spirit Hall, he had burned his vital essence as a price to exceed his maximum speed, which led to severe overconsumption. He stayed in the artifact space for an entire half a year, recovering all his lost vitality from absorbing the old snake's hidden essence. He had also raised his cultivation to the peak of Saint Ruler once again, now only an inch away from Saint King. MOG of the Thousand-Handed Clan greets the ruler of the Turtle Clan. A husky voice rang from outside, heard clearly by the 3 of them. With a thought, he released the barrier around the hall and said, Come in. Jian Chen had a very deep impression in regards to the Thousand-Handed Clan. The Thousand-Handed Clan was one of the greatest clans of the Sea Realm. They were much more powerful than the Taihong Clan, with 1 16th star Sea Soul Warrior and 2 15th star Sea Soul Warriors. They were a famed clan within the territory of the Sea Goddess Hall. The Thousand-Handed Clan's original form similar to the centipedes on land. They were extremely long, with 1,000 limbs in total. They were good at poisoning people with their venom and possessed a tenacious life force. Even if their bodies were destroyed, they could rebuild their bodies in a very short amount of time as long as their souls remained. It was extremely miraculous. The Thousand-Handed Clan was one of the clans that had purchased an opportunity to enter the Octaterra Divine Hall from him. A black-robed old man walked in from outside. He was skinny, while his face was covered with a thin layer of hairs. He seemed like a monkey, but his deep eyes would flash with a cold light from time to time. His eyes were filled with cold-bloodedness and viciousness. Mog greets the ruler of the Turtle Clan. The old man clasped his hands at Jian Chen. Although his voice was polite, he did not carry an expression that matched it. "Please come in, warrior Mog. May I ask if there's anything you need for suddenly coming to find me?" Jian Chen smiled as he said mildly. Mog sat down beside Jian Chen and smiled. "Ruler, we'll be entering the Octaterra Divine Hall soon. The Divine Hall is filled with danger. Not only do we have to prepare against the attacks from other people, we have to pay attention to the various killing formations in the hall. We can die very easily with a slip in focus. Mog has come to find the ruler this time actually because Mog wants to team up with the ruler. That way, our chances of staying alive would increase greatly. I wonder how the ruler feels about this." Jian Chen frowned slightly when he heard that, but after a period of thought, he nodded in agreement. Mog rejoiced when he gained Jian Chen's agreement. He then left after conversing slightly with Jian Chen. "Jian Chen, as long as we're a little careful, we're strong enough to rampage in there with our strength. Why did you let him join us?" Nubis asked in confusion. "This is only temporary and we know nothing about the Octaterra Divine Hall. We'll be able to get a general idea of it from him," said Jian Chen with a smile. His eyes flickered as he thought of something. After Mog had left, another 3 people came to Jian Chen. They were all experts of various clans that were also entering the hall. All of them were of 9th heavenly layer, with shocking talent and great strength. They all wished to join Jian Chen's group and enter the hall together. Jian Chen did not turn them down because he knew this was all temporary. Cracks would appear in their truce when they came across something enticing. Additionally, with so many helpers, they would not need to worry about being ganged up on. After all, no one who entered the hall this time would be weak. Not only would they be of the 9th heavenly layer, there would be plenty of talented people who had already comprehended Saint-tier battle skills. They could heavily injure Saint Kings, so Jian Chen needed to deal with them carefully. The 3 of them spent 3 days in the hall. After these 3 days, all the people who were entering the Octaterra Divine Hall gathered in a huge, empty space, before they left the palace under the lead of 2 hall elders and various experts. They flew toward the location where the 3 territories bordered one another. Jian Chen glanced at the surroundings and realized that there were over 300 people who were coming along as well. Other than the 60 people who were entering the hall, the others were experts of various clans and a few elders of the Sea Goddess Hall. Of the 2 hall elders that accompanied them, one of them was the Elder Hong that Jian Chen was familiar with. The other person was a blue-dressed lady. She wielded a meter-long staff and her face was obscured by a layer of mist. It was hazy and indistinct. Although the lady seemed very similar to Atlantis that had initially saved them from the experts of the other 2 halls, Jian Chen knew that she definitely was not Atlantis but someone else. After several days of flight, the group arrived at the border. Just as they arrived, the experts from the Heaven Spirit Hall and the Serpent God Hall just happened to fly over from afar. They had actually all arrived at the same time. 1 year is up. Let's get straight to it. Those in possession of the map fragments, please take them out at the same time and bring them together, Hall Elder Hong said. Immediately, 8 people took out the map fragments, before they all walked up to the very front of the group. Of the 8 fragments, the Sea Goddess Hall had a total of 4 pieces, while the other 2 halls had 2 each. Jian Chen stood together with 3 other people. He could immediately feel that he was being stared at by several sharp gazes with his keen senses, so he glanced around. He discovered that the two hall elders from both the Serpent God Hall and the Heaven Spirit Hall stared at him darkly. They looked so vicious that they virtually seemed like they wanted to devour him. Jian Chen remained as usual, but he sneered inside. Some time ago, both halls had suffered greatly through his hands. They all had Saint King's Fall, and 3 16th star experts had been taken away by Atlantic of the Sea Goddess Hall. It was embarrassing. So the map fragment that belonged to my Hao family has ended up in your hands. Brat, what's your name and which organization do you belong to? Through what means did you obtain the map fragment? An old voice boomed from the Heaven Spirit Hall side. An old man stared at Jian Chen with an ugly expression. The old man knew very well which clans were in possession of the 7 other map fragments. Jian Chen was the only one he did not recognize. Jian Chen looked toward the direction where the voice came from and immediately recognized the old man as the Saint King of the Hao family, the person that Qing Yishuan had robbed all those days ago. I am Jian Chen, ruler of the Turtle Clan. I naturally obtained this map fragment from Qing Yishuan. Jian Chen smiled as he clasped his hands at the Saint King. If this person had not injured Qing Yishuan heavily through his Saint Tier battle skill, Jian Chen would not have been able to take the map fragment from her. The old man's complexion could not help but recover slightly when he heard that. He laughed aloud. The rumors said that the map fragment Qing Yishuan had taken from me ended up being stolen by 2 14th star juniors. In the beginning, I didn't believe it, but it looks like it's all true now. Humph, never did I think that Qing Yishuan of the 8 great human experts would be tripped up by 2 juniors. The gazes from many people toward Jian Chen underwent a weird change, now mixed with quite some admiration. Just the courage to steal from the famed Qing Yishuan as a 14th star Sea Soul warrior was worthy of respect. At this moment, Elder Hong pointed out. 4 strands of energy shot out from his finger, fusing and disappearing into the map fragments. Soon afterward, a ripple of energy surged out from the 4 palm-sized map pieces, which now glowed with a layer of hazy light. Everyone, please undo the seal on the map fragments. Elder Hong looked toward the people of the other 2 halls. Shortly afterward, the hall elders of the Heaven Spirit Hall and the Serpent God Hall moved in unison. 2 ripples of energy shot out from their fingers and into their map fragments, undoing the seal hidden within. The other 4 fragments immediately began to shine with a hazy glow. The light became brighter and brighter, before reaching an extremely dazzling level. They were like suns that illuminated the surroundings. The 8 map fragments slowly flew from their hands, before joining together in the air. A while later, the light gradually receded and a meter-wide square piece of leather could be seen floating in the sky. It then flew toward the territory of the Serpent God Hall with lightning speed. The Octaterra map will lead us to the Octaterra Divine Hall. Follow it. Someone cried out. Immediately, the people from the other 2 halls crossed over their borders in pursuit. The 3 halls had agreed beforehand that they could cross into any hall's borders during the period of searching for the Divine Hall. A group of people pursued the map boldly. It finally stopped in the air above an ancient mountain range after covering hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Currently, the map radiated with a weird aura as it floated in the air. It caused the surrounding space to tremble gently and become blurry. So this is where the Octaterra Emperor hid his Divine Hall, murmured the 2 hall elders of the Serpent God Hall as they raised their heads to look at the sky. In this moment, an extremely powerful ripple of energy ripped open the space. It formed a huge, black hole, and from within it a huge Divine Hall slowly emerged. The Octaterra Hall had finally descended upon the sea realm. The Divine Hall was several thousand meters long and tall. It was completely golden, as if it was made of gold, and it shone with a dazzling golden light. The Divine Hall was bewitching. As the Divine Hall emerged completely, the black hole above also disappeared. Soon afterward, the map separated into 8 pieces again, falling into the hands of the initial 8 people. Brother Jianchen, the most valuable thing in the Divine Hall other than the Octaterra Emperor's legacy is this Divine Hall. Once you enter it, you need to find a way to get to the control center of the hall and obtain it. Elder Hong's voice boomed in Jianchen's ear. He communicated with him through a mental message. Jianchen nodded expressionlessly. Afterward, he flew toward the hall that was high up in the sky with the other people who were entering. Very soon, 160 experts entered the hall with the help of the 8 map fragments. Meanwhile, the people from the 3 halls did not leave and instead began to wait patiently outside. They wanted to wait until all of them had come out, to prevent any treasures from being stolen on their return journey. Chapter 9:14 Attack of a Beast Horde. The 160 experts all gathered together within the Octaterra Divine Hall. They stood around in groups, observing the surroundings vigilantly. They all remained cautious of one another. Jianchen, Nubis, Xiaofan, and the 4 others gathered together. They stood in an inconspicuous corner and observed the people around them carefully. At the same time, they examined their surroundings through the corner of their eyes. They currently stood in an extremely wide hall. It was circular in shape, while the surrounding tunnels lead off in all directions. There were a total of 16 tunnels and every single one of them was over 30 meters tall. No one knew where they led off to. "Mog, do you have a map of this place on you?" Jianchen sent a mental message to the 4 other people. The map fragments were only the key to the Divine Hall and did not possess a map of the hall itself. Additionally, the fragments had already disappeared after they had entered the place. Mog shook his head gently. It said that the Octaterra Emperor remained alone throughout his life with very few friends. When he built this Divine Hall after becoming an emperor, no one apart from the emperor had entered it back then either. There was never a map of this place that has gone into circulation. It'll be a test of our luck in the upcoming part of the journey. "I hope we can find the right path," replied a black-robed young man. He was an expert from a large clan and his name was De Xian. He was one of the 4 people who had joined Jianchen. Quite a few of the small groups in the surroundings began to move at this moment. They all chose one of the 16 tunnels and went through with their choice. Abruptly, muffled sounds began to resound from the surroundings. It was densely packed, like the constant pitter-patter of rain. It occurred in all 16 tunnels. This sudden occurrence raised everyone's vigilance to the maximum. They all made preparations for battle and even the people who were about to depart returned. They all gathered in the hall once again. A series of densely packed beast roars reverberated from all 16 tunnels. Large beasts all flowed from the tunnels, each and every one of them charging at the people viciously. There were many of these beasts and none of them were weak. They were all at least as strong as Heaven Saint Masters and many of them had already reached the level of Saint Rulers. These are all vicious beasts. God damn it, why they're so many and why they all so strong. The Octaterra Emperor actually raised a bunch of vicious beasts in his Divine Hall. It'll be troublesome now. All of them have been affected by the hall. They may not possess intelligence but they're much more powerful than ordinary vicious beasts. I hope we don't come across overly powerful ones, there are just too many. We need to work together to kill them all off. The peace of the hall was immediately broken and quite a few saint rulers called out grimly. Jianchen and Nubis both became stern. Nubis' hands immediately became golden, completing his preparations for battle. He growled, "I can already feel the presence of several Class 8 magical beasts. There's actually Class 8 ones in the horde." Strands of chaotic force poured out from Jianchen's chaotic Niden, boosting the defense of the chaotic body to the absolute maximum. Afterward, he drew his king armament from his space ring. He fully expanded his presence but it suffered restrictions due to being in the Divine Hall. He could only expand it to several thousand meters away at maximum, and it could not pass through any parts of the structure. There are a total of 4 Class 8 magical beasts. 2 of them are of the 2nd heavenly layer, the 3rd one is of the 3rd heavenly layer, while the last one is of the 5th heavenly layer, Jian Chen said gruffly. He had already sensed the exact strength of the beasts up ahead through his presence. At the same time, he had discovered that the interior of the hall was humongous, nothing like the few thousand meters tall and long it had seemed from the outside. The size of the hall as seen from the outside was not its true size. The beasts surged out from the 16 tunnels like a flood, meeting the 160 saint rulers very quickly. An intense battle erupted between both sides and violent ripples of energy filled the entire space. However, it failed to break anything. Nubis was only an inch away from Saint King. Combined with the fact that he was a beast of antiquity, he was not any weaker than ordinary Saint Kings. He charged into the horde of beasts all by himself, constantly impaling them one by one with his hands. He ripped the huge bodies of the beasts to pieces and filled the air with blood and dyed the ground red. Jian Chen also charged into the beast horde with his king armament in hand. The sword transformed into a flurry of blurs as they filled the space before him. He chopped through the beasts one by one. Countless heads of the beasts were flung high up into the air, dyeing the sky with blood. Jian Chen collected monster cores as he killed, getting through several dozen beasts in just a short moment. He had also collected several dozen Class 6 and Class 7 monster cores. The other people all displayed their abilities as well, slaughtering the Class 6 and Class 7 vicious beasts. Countless corpses immediately blanketed the floor of the hall. As the number of beasts reduced, the corpses on the floor increased. Meanwhile, all 160 people came out unscathed and unharmed. Roar! At this moment, several deafening roars rang out. The 4 Class 8 magical beasts all attacked, charging directly at the people as blurs. Over 10 saint rulers were immediately sent flying by the brutal attacks of the 4 beasts. They all paled, clearly now quite injured. Their 15th star vicious beasts. Let's strike together, everyone. A loud voice erupted from the crowd and over 20 saint rulers immediately took the initiative to charge at one of the 2nd heavenly layer Class 8 magical beast, surrounding it and raining it with attacks. In that moment, everyone devoted themselves to battle. The powerful beasts needed to all be killed off while most of them remained. Otherwise, it would be almost certain death if they came across the beasts all by themselves. This was why all 160 saint rulers worked extremely well together despite coming from different regions. Jian Chen, Xia Wang, and their 4 other members of the group kept a 3rd heavenly layer Class 8 beast busy, while Nubis fought the 5th heavenly layer vicious beast with 30-odd experts on his side. The battle was extremely fierce. With the king armament, Jian Chen was as strong as a 3rd heavenly layer Saint King. His sword impaled the neck of the beast with lightning speed, causing it to howl out in pain. The other people who fought the beast with him all struck out as hard as they could and powerful attacks rained down on it. It caused the beast to become littered with wounds. However, the beast's defense was extraordinary. The attacks only scathed its skin and failed to injure the beast by a lot. Jian Chen's eyes became cold and a towering sword intent immediately began to radiate from him. He seemed to have become an imposing divine sword in that moment. He levitated in midair as he quickly began to spin. The king armament embedded in the beast's neck began to spin at a great speed following the motions of Jian Chen's body, constantly expanding the beast's wound like a meat grinder. In the end, Jian Chen directly passed through the wound along with his sword. The beast howled out powerlessly. A 30-centimeter hole had already appeared in its not very thick neck, leaving only a quarter of its neck still attached to its head. At this moment, another ray from a blade flashed by. A 9th heavenly layer saint ruler chopped at the remaining quarter with a machete, severing the head completely and causing it to fly into the air as it sprayed with blood. Immediately, Powerful energies shot from the hands of over 10 saint rulers, striking the head in the air and causing it to explode with a boom. The head was blasted apart while a bloody monster core flew out. Several saint rulers immediately tried to take it for themselves, but a figure arrived before it with even greater speed. He directly grabbed it. The figure was Jian Chen. A cold light flashed through the eyes of several saint rulers immediately, but when they saw that it was Jian Chen, they shut up immediately. The ruler of the Turtle Clan was someone who had robbed Qing Yishuan of the 8 great human experts, and he had even succeeded. No ordinary person could match his courage or strength. They did not want to offend Jian Chen just because of a mere Class 8 monster core. A third heavenly layer Class 8 vicious beast had just died like that in the hands of a few saint ruler. Yet, the person who benefited the most from it was Jian Chen, obtaining a Class 8 monster core that was rarely seen on the Tianyuan continent. With the death of the beast, the 3 other Class 8 vicious beasts remained locked in combat with everyone else. The 2 second heavenly layer beasts were already covered in blood as wounds crisscrossed all over them. They were not going to be lasting much longer. The final 5th heavenly layer beast remained as tough as ever. There were very few wounds on its body as the ordinary attacks from the saint rulers struggled to break through its skin. Only Nubis was able to cause relatively deeper wounds. Bang! 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 With consecutive sounds, several saint rulers were knocked into the air by that vicious beast. They all vomited blood, now very heavily injured. It took them quite some time to rise up after being knocked down. They immediately pulled out medicines from their space rings to treat their injuries and did not continue the battle. Bang! With another muffled sound, Nubis was knocked flying by a kick from the beast. He immediately became rather pale. Jian Chen used the illusory flash and shooting toward Nubis as a blur. He caught Nubis mid-air and asked in concern, "Are you fine?" Several of Nubis' ribs were broken. He was quite injured. He endured the agonizing pain as he stood up and said, "That beast is too powerful. Not only is its skin so tough that it's difficult to deal with, its strength is extremely great too. Jian Chen, you got any more radiant spirit pills? Give me a few." Jian Chen pulled out a small wooden box and passed it to Nubis without any hesitation. "I have no need for these, so you should keep them. If I'm not with you, use them to treat your wounds." Nubis directly put the wooden box into his space ring without holding back. "Treat your wounds here, fist. I'll go deal with those 2 slightly weaker beasts. I need their monster cores very much." Jian Chen directly charged at the 2 second heavenly layer beasts after throwing that down. Chapter 9:15 Fight for a Class 8 monster core. Currently, the 2 second heavenly layer Class 8 vicious beasts were covered in blood and close to their deaths. Their attacks had also become weaker and weaker as a result. "Just some more. They can't last much longer. They're almost dead," called out a saint ruler as he hurled a fist that struck the head of one of the beasts forcefully. It jolted the beast's head violently, cracking its skull. At this moment, a blur arrived with a flash. Jian Chen used the illusory flash to get behind the beast and suddenly swung down with the king armament that radiated with a destructive aura. It cut into the horrifying wound at the beast's neck. Crack! The beast was beheaded by Jian Chen's strike as large amounts of blood spurted from the remaining stump on its body. It gave off a sharp smell of blood. With a swing of his hand, Jian Chen stabbed out once again. The king armament was inserted deeply into the beast's head and he used the sword to dig out a bloody monster core. Without even wiping it clean, he shoved it into his space ring before immediately charging toward the other beast. A few seconds later, the other beast's life was ended by Jian Chen as well, and so he also obtained its monster core. Jian Chen rejoiced slightly. He had just obtained 3 Class 8 monster cores. This would have been unimaginable on the Tianyuan continent. "Come deal with this beast. It's of the 16th star." We need to finish it off right here and right now, or no one would be able to deal with it once we separate. It'll take us all to our doom. A saint ruler called out for help as he battled the final Class 8 beast. The beast was of the 5th heavenly layer, so even though there were over 30 saint rulers surrounding and attacking it simultaneously, it was still extremely powerful. It forcefully knocked all the saint rulers backward with its own strength. Immediately, over 100 saint rulers charged up and engaged in a great battle with the final beast. Jian Chen did not just stand around either, he also participated in the slaying of the final vicious beast. The beast was extremely powerful, so they needed to kill it off when there was still a lot of them around. Otherwise, perhaps everyone would die to its claws after they all separated. Under the attacks from over 109th heavenly layer saint rulers, the beast finally produced a howl of regret and collapsed in its own pool of blood. However, there were also over 30 saint rulers that had been heavily injured. The monster core in the beast's head had become the object of attraction among the crowd. Over 20 saint rulers charged up immediately for the head and engaged in a brawl with one another, which directly caused the head to disintegrate. Meanwhile, the monster core hidden deep within it was knocked high up into the sky by the powerful force. The saint rulers all leaped into the air in unison and flying toward the monster core. They all moved extremely fast. A gleam of light exploded in Jian Chen's eyes and 2 vague slivers of colored light, one purple and one azure, appeared in his eyes. He grabbed at the empty space, and the monster core immediately changed directions and flew toward him. In the end, Jian Chen caught it firmly. Over 10 of the 20-odd people immediately gave up once they saw that the person who had obtained it was Jian Chen, ruler of the Turtle Clan. However, there were still 7 people who charged toward him with killing intent, in an attempt to steal the monster core from him. Jian Chen's eyes immediately narrowed. Grabbing the monster core tightly with his left hand, the king armament lashed out with his right. He stabbed out 7 times in an instant. Ding! 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 With a series of metal clashes, the weapons from all 7 people collided with the king armament in Jian Chen's hand. The weapons struck Jian Chen's sword before being pulled back immediately as all 7 people backpedaled hurriedly. All their expressions underwent a drastic change, while their gazes toward Jian Chen were soon filled with deep fear and disbelief. Jian Chen stood steadily as if his feet were the roots of a tree. He had repelled all 7 of them by himself, and he seemed to have done it extremely easily. This caused all the surrounding people to break into an uproar. In that moment, all of them looked toward Jian Chen with deep dread. It would be extremely unfortunate if they happened to offend such a powerful person in the Octaterra Divine Hall that was isolated from the outside world. Jian Chen stared coldly at the 7 saint rulers. He could not help but form a sneer with his lips. "I'd like to see how long you can endure it for." Spurt. 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 As soon as Jian Chen said that, the 7 saint rulers all vomited blood. They all became dejected, they had all been injured by the sword chi from that single clash earlier. After all, Jian Chen wielded a king armament, he possessed the strength of a 3rd heavenly layer saint king. Any casual attack from a 3rd heavenly layer saint king was not something a saint ruler could endure. All the people present watched on wide-eyed and tongue-tied. The shock in their hearts had reached the absolute maximum. Ha ha ha, the ruler of the Turtle Clan sure is extraordinary. I've finally been able to witness it today. Mog laughed aloud as he stepped out from the crowd and arrived directly beside Jian Chen. He was singing words of praise. Afterward, the 3 other people stepped out from the crowd and joined Jian Chen as well. They seemed to be indicating to the crowd that they were with the ruler of the Turtle Clan. Jian Chen glanced at the Class 8 monster core in his hand and said to the 7 people, "Do you still want to fight with me for this monster core?" Turtle ruler, sincere apologies. We did not know that it was you who was in possession of the monster core. If we have caused any offense, I hope the turtle ruler can forgive us. An old man apologized to Jian Chen from the group of 7. His face was earnest. Jian Chen frowned slightly when he heard that and revealed some slight displeasure. I don't like to be called turtle ruler. My name is Jian Chen. Yes, turtle ruler, the old man replied courteously. He did not dare to defy Jian Chen. Although they were of the same cultivation level, Jian Chen was the ruler of a clan. He would be able to reach the level of a hall elder sooner or later, or even surpass that and become an emperor. Let alone the fact that he was afraid of causing any offense himself, even his entire clan would not dare to offend Jian Chen so easily. However, the old man did not seem to realize what he had said, that he had called Jian Chen turtle ruler again. Jian Chen sighed gently inside. He just could not be bothered with squabbling over these small matters with this old man. After he stored the monster core into his space ring, he arrived before Nubis to protect him as he healed. Now that all the vicious beasts had been killed off, the silent truce between all the people had dissolved. All of them left the area cautiously, staying vigilant of the others. Everyone knew that there was only a limited number of treasures in the Octaterra Divine Hall. The fewer people there were, the greater chance they would have of obtaining something. As a result, battles could erupt at any moment here. Almost all the people present wished for everyone else to die, so that they would be guaranteed to inherit the Octaterra Emperor's legacy and the various treasures within. A while later, the various groups of people had all disappeared into the 16 tunnels, which caused the people remaining in the hall to become less and less. In just a short 20 minutes, the entire hall was emptied, only leaving behind Jian Chen's group of 7. A thick smell of blood lingered in the air. Jian Chen, let's go as well. Nubis stood up. His wounds had been mostly healed by the Class 6 Radiant Spirit pills, although it was not a complete recovery, it would no longer affect him greatly. Jian Chen glanced at the 16 tunnels and casually picked one. Mog and the 3 others followed closely behind Jian Chen, Nubis, and Xiaofan. The Divine Hall seemed like a maze inside. The tunnels led off in all directions and could be seen almost everywhere. When Jian Chen's group reached the end of their tunnel, they saw many more tunnels that led off to places unknown. The tunnels were like the branches of a tree, each branch would have many smaller branches, while there were even smaller ones of them. It was innumerable and very easily disorientating. A great beast roar resounded from ahead at this moment. A 3-meter-tall Class 7 vicious beast appeared before the group. It stared fixedly at them with its red eyes, before charging toward them. Jian Chen's eyes immediately lit up when he saw the beast. He did not seem to see it as a powerful opponent but as a valuable Class 7 monster core. Let me deal with it. Just as Mog was about to charge at the beast, Jian Chen was already one step faster with the king armament in hand. He beheaded the beast with a single slash and removed its monster core. The group paid no further attention to the beast's corpse after removing its monster core before continuing on their way. The group made their way aimlessly through the maze, coming across beasts from time to time. However, all of them were around Class 7, with some even Class 6. Not only did they fail to form any threat to Jian Chen's group, they resulted in a grand harvest for Jian Chen. He had obtained quite a few monster cores from this. Just as they passed through a tunnel, their views suddenly opened up. They had come to an extremely large hall. Jian Chen looked around and his face sank immediately. He had already recognized the hall as the one they had arrived in at the very beginning. They had traveled in a great big circle, actually looping back to where they had started. The only difference was that the mountainous piles of beast corpses had all disappeared. They were not the first ones to return. There were over 40 people scattered everywhere in the hall, conversing with one another currently. They would draw on the floor from time to time analyzing the path they had taken in the maze. Crap, we've come back again. Nubis' expression became rather ugly. At this very moment, Jian Chen's eyes froze. He stared fixedly at the center of the hall. There, he vaguely saw a formation on the floor. Chapter 9:16. Leaving the maze, Jian Chen slowly made his way to the center of the hall as he stared at the formation fixedly. The circular formation on the ground had a diameter of 20 meters and was in the shape of a pentagram. Countless tiny red lines connected with one another on it, linking up in an extremely complicated and profound manner. Jian Chen stared at the formation as a sliver of thought appeared on his face. He could remember clearly that when he had first come to the hall, the complicated formation was not present. Is this hall perhaps not the one we had originally arrived in but a different one that seems completely the same? Jian Chen involuntarily guessed inside, but he dismissed this thought very quickly. He was certain that this was the same hall he had initially arrived in. There's a formation here, another Saint Ruler said in surprise as he too discovered the formation. All the other Saint Rulers in the hall were drawn over and gathered in the center. They all stared fixedly at the formation as they stood in thought. The formation is covered by many of those red lines. Is this perhaps the map to the maze? Said a person as he hypothesized. That's impossible. These red lines form a completely different image to the maze, so it can't be a map. Someone else dismissed this immediately. The formation wasn't present before. It has only appeared suddenly right now. Perhaps it has something to do with the way out of the maze? Another person expressed his thoughts. Everyone became silent. Many of them had thought up to there, but they did not have any way to test it. At this very moment, a loud beast roar reverberated from a tunnel. A vicious beast had just been slaughtered by some Saint Ruler, howling out miserably one last time before its death. Jian Chen's eyes lit up. His presence had engulfed the entirety of the formation, so he would be able to sense any changes the formation underwent. Just as the beast had died, he discovered that an additional red line had appeared. Does the appearance of this formation have something to do with those beasts? An idea flashed through Jian Chen's head. When we first entered the Divine Hall, there wasn't a formation on the ground. Afterward, we encountered the attacks from a large horde of beasts. After we killed off all of them, their corpses littered the ground, and this prevented us from seeing the ground properly. Now that we've returned, the corpses have disappeared and there's now a formation on the floor. Has this formation appeared because of those beasts? Jian Chen's eyes shone as he quickly analyzed the facts. Suddenly, Jian Chen's expression changed and he said gruffly, "I know now. This formation should be crucial to how we leave the maze, but it's just been hidden for some reason. We need to use the blood of the beasts to make it appear. For every death, a part of the formation will appear. Once enough beasts have been killed, its entirety will appear. We'll be able to leave the maze then." All the people present became stunned when they heard this, before all staring fixedly at the formation on the ground. They all pondered as they stared at it. "What evidence do you have to prove what you just said?" A burly, middle-aged man asked Jian Chen. "Pay close attention to the formation. If I am right, additional red lines will appear when beasts die. These red lines should be a component of the formation, and only when they all appear will the formation be complete," said Jian Chen. Afterward, no one spoke. They all focused their gazes onto the formation, staring at it fixedly for any changes. More Saint Ruler entered the hall as they focused on the formation, leading to an increase in the number of people. They immediately noticed the ring of people around the formation as soon as they arrived, and they also joined in out of curiosity, all staring at the formation with doubt. At this moment, another miserable beast howl rang out. Another vicious beast had been killed in the maze. Just as the beast died, an old man called out from the crowd of people, "Look, another red line has actually appeared. I saw it too. It's just as he said. Those beasts really are crucial for us to leave here. We need to add to the formation through their blood. Then what are we waiting for?" Let's go kill those beasts and complete the formation as soon as possible. All the people called out in surprise, and some of them immediately charged into the tunnels impatiently in search of beasts to kill. Jian Chen's group did not hesitate either. They casually chose a tunnel and left through it, taking part in the hunt for the beasts. Jian Chen needed the monster cores within the beasts' bodies very much, and any one of them would be a priceless treasure on the Tianyuan continent. He needed to collect as much as he could in this rare opportunity. The beasts in the Divine Hall were all reared up by the Octaterra Emperor years ago. After so many years of breeding, no one knew exactly how many there were, nor did anyone know how powerful the strongest one was. Jian Chen's group rampaged in the tunnels, purposefully searching for beasts to hunt. Along the way, they would come across other saint rulers from time to time. However, when they noticed that it was Jian Chen, ruler of the Turtle Clan, they would reveal deep fear. They would greet Jian Chen enthusiastically before taking a path and leaving. No one dared to offend Jian Chen. After all, they had all witnessed Jian Chen's strength when he killed the 5th Heavenly Layer Class 8 vicious beast earlier. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In these 3 days, Jian Chen constantly shuttled back and forth within the maze, hunting down beasts. In these days of slaughter, countless beasts had been felled by Jian Chen's hands. He collected a great pile of monster cores as a result. Rumble. Just as Jian Chen killed off the beast he was dealing with, the entire maze suddenly began to shake violently. In the hall, the complete formation had finally appeared, shining with a dazzling red light that filled the entire hall. In that very moment, the hall had been filled with an extremely powerful energy. In the next moment, the surrounding walls of the maze slowly began to sink, quickly disappearing into the ground completely. As they disappeared, it revealed the many experts in the maze. The maze has disappeared. That formation really was the way out of the maze, the experts all cried out happily as they watched the surroundings. Jian Chen removed the monster core from the beast's head and then looked around. He discovered that he was now actually in a large square. It was extremely large, with an area of several hundred square kilometers. The maze was constructed in this square. The Divine Hall sure is different on the inside compared with the outside. The inside is actually so big, just the square completely exceeds the size of the hall we saw outside. Nubi sighed emotionally after looking around. The hall where we originally appeared in should be the main entrance of the Divine Hall, while this square should be the first portion of the Divine Hall. Let's continue onward, said Jian Chen, before heading toward the depths. At the same time, all the other saint rulers set out as well. They maintained a certain distance between one another as they slowly made their way into the depths, each filled with caution. In there, not only did they need to stay vigilant of the people around them, they also needed to watch out for dangers from the Divine Hall itself. At this very moment, Jian Chen's eyes froze. He suddenly turned to one side and saw that 100 meters away, the space had begun to tremble violently. It had enveloped 5 saint rulers that traveled together, sucking them away. Everyone be careful, there are formations here, people immediately cried out from the surroundings. Everyone's vigilance rose once again. Everyone continued their way toward the interior of the Divine Hall cautiously without paying any more attention to whether the trapped people had survived or not. It was extremely difficult to detect the hidden formations. For the next period of time, the formations are hidden everywhere all appeared, trapping the saint rulers that had triggered them. Even Jian Chen's group ended up triggering 3 powerful killing formations, but they managed to break through it successfully with the 7 of them. They passed through the initial area of the Divine Hall, reaching the central region. Many grand halls and pavilions stood in the central region of the hall, and there were many perfectly preserved gardens and ponds. Flowers bloomed in the garden, giving off a heavy fragrance. Many unknown insects moved among the plants, while quite a few fishes swam about in the ponds. The fragrance of the water lingered in the entire region. Under the influence of the Divine Hall, all the organisms, regardless of the various insects or the fishes, had evolved beyond what they seemed. They all possessed extremely powerful offensive abilities. They had existed for countless years, and some of them even radiated with auras akin to saint rulers. The energy they used was extremely odd, similar to the energy of the Divine Hall, which was extremely powerful. Everyone knew the strength of these organisms, so they maintained a wide distance from them. No one dared to provoke them as they continued forward. The central region of the hall was like a city crisscrossed with paths. Everyone gradually scattered after arriving here, spreading out in all directions. Boom! Suddenly, a violent sound rumbled in the distance. A saint ruler had attempted to enter a hall. Just as he opened the door, he was knocked into the air by a violent ripple of energy that had surged out from within. Blood sprayed from his mouth without restraint. However, the door did not close up and remained open. "Let's go in and have a look." A voice rang out, and 3 saint rulers immediately entered the hall cautiously. At the same time, blue armor materialized on them, completely condensed from energy. Noticing the armor on them, an undetectable gleam of light flashed across Jian Chen's eyes. He had fought Saint Kings many times, which was why he could identify that the 3 suits of armor all radiated with a vast presence unique to Saint Kings. That's not their power. There's a Saint King's power within them, and they used that to condense the armor to protect themselves. Jian Chen reached an understanding very quickly. The Saint King's power clearly would only be used when they faced true danger. Right now, they were entering an unknown hall. The dangers would definitely be much greater than that of the vicious beasts, which was why they had used the power without any hesitation. Many people outside paid attention to the movements of the 3 people. Their eyes all flickered with a certain light, hesitating about whether to venture into a hall and see what was inside. Boom! At this moment, a violent rumble resounded from within the hall. A powerful energy immediately rippled from the hall, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Chapter 917, The Octaterra Emperor's Schemes. At this moment, a violent rumble resounded from within the hall. A powerful energy immediately rippled from the hall, causing the surrounding space to tremble. The hearts of everyone outside sank. They were already expecting that the people who had entered were doomed. The halls really did hide great danger. It was not as peaceful as it seemed. The hall boomed a few times before quickly returning to peace. Afterward, there was no more activity at all. No one could see what had happened inside due to the Saint Emperor's power in the hall. Even Jian Chen's presence could not pass through the walls. "Looks like they've fallen here." Similar thoughts flashed through the heads of many people. Afterward, their dread for that hall became denser and denser, and they swore to never enter it. However, a series of footsteps rang out soon afterward. The 3 people who had entered had actually walked out alive, and each and every one of them was filled with joy. Clearly, they had found some great things. Currently, their armors had dulled. It had assisted them in resisting those violent attacks, now greatly consumed of power. Their appearance immediately drew everyone's attention. They all stared at the 3 people in shock and doubt as they revealed expressions of disbelief. "They're actually still alive, just what was there inside?" many people asked immediately, but they did not get any response. As soon as the 3 people came out from a hall, they immediately hurried toward another one without any hesitation. "There must be some good stuff in these halls. We need to go find them. We can't let others take it before us," someone said loudly. Afterward, the people all charged toward the surrounding halls in groups without any more worry. "Let's go have a look as well." Jian Chen waved his arm and led the people behind him to a nearby hall. Violent booms reverberated from everywhere. A few saint rulers in the surroundings had already opened the doors to halls as they wore armor condensed from a Saint King's power. There were also quite a few people who were knocked far away by the powerful energy that had erupted from the halls. Jian Chen witnessed everything that was happening in the surroundings. He realized that of all the experts that had entered the Octaterra Divine Hall this time, probably everyone had some of a Saint King's power other than newbies, Xiaofan, and him. The Saint Kings had deposited some of their power in them to increase their ability to survive, as once they brought back treasures, the ones that benefited would be the clan supporting them. Looks like there's also Saint King's power in MOG and the others. I just wonder how great the power is and what level of cultivation the Saint King possessed, and they deposited their power into them. Jian Chen glanced at the 4 people behind him from the corner of his eye and secretly raised his awareness. The 7 of them stopped before a hall and stood in silence for a while. Xia Wang spoke from one side, "As soon as the door is open, there'll be a very powerful attack. It can injure any one of us, so we might as well open it together." "Sure, then let's open it together," an old man said steadily. He was Gao De, one of the 4 people that had joined Jian Chen's group. Soon enough, the 7 of them opened the door together. Just as it opened, a powerful ripple of energy immediately shot toward them. They struck out in unison, using their powerful attacks to collide with the ripple of energy. With a rumble, all 7 of them were knocked backward by the energy. They all took a dozen or so steps before stabilizing themselves, but were all unharmed. They entered the hall. The hall was beautifully decorated, and although it had already been countless years since it was last opened, it was extremely clean inside and without dust. Jian Chen glanced around, locking onto the table in the room very quickly. There was a space ring, a letter, a thin book, and a stone square board around 30 centimeters in length and width on the table. The 7 of them subconsciously walked toward the room. Abruptly, the space around them began to ripple violently and their surroundings disappeared in that very instant. It turned into a scorching sea of fire that radiated with terrifying heat. "It's so hot. This is a formation. We've fallen into another formation," growled Xia Wang. A powerful force immediately exuded from his body, forming a barrier around him to protect him from the heat. Jian Chen stared at the flames calmly. He felt the terrifying heat and said normally, "This formation is much more powerful than anyone that we've encountered before. If I've guessed correctly, this formation should be prepared for 15th star experts. I dislike the heat here very much. Ruler, let's work together and break through immediately," Mo Ji said impatiently with a frown. To the sea race that lived in the ocean, fire was their weakness. There was no member of the sea race that liked fire. Jian Chen wielded his king armament and leaped up high into the sky. He slashed violently at the space above as his sword radiated with a devastating aura. This attack was equivalent to a casual strike from a Saint King. It completely exceeded the strength of a 9th heavenly layer Saint Ruler and immediately caused the formation space to tremble violently as the sword cut through the air, before shattering loudly. The sea of fire disappeared and the surroundings returned to how it was previously. Jian Chen's single attack had broken through it. When the 4 people who had tagged along witnessed this, they immediately became overwhelmed with shock. What they knew was that the Turtle Clan was a clan with powerful defense and weak attacks. However, the ruler of the Turtle Clan before them right now had displayed a strength that completely dispelled what was said in the legends. The ruler's strength really has broadened our horizons. It is incredible for the ruler to be able to break through a formation targeted at 15th star experts with a single attack. Someone said a few words of praise with a dazzling smile. Jian Chen remained as usual and said, "This formation may be targeted toward 15th star experts, but it's no longer as strong as it was before after so much time has passed. Otherwise, I definitely wouldn't have been able to break through it so easily. Let's go see exactly what treasures are hiding in this hall." With that, Jian Chen entered the room with his king armament in hand. He glanced past the items on the table, before locking onto the stone board. Jian Chen extended his hand toward the stone board. His hand sank when he held it. The board did not have a weight that matched its size. It was at least several hundred kilograms in weight. Lifting it would be an extremely arduous task for those with weaker strength. Jian Chen lifted up the stone board without any difficulty and examined it. There were a few engravings on it, but it seemed incomplete. It was impossible to determine what it was. However, Jian Chen could feel a pressure from it that seemed to originate from the world. The pressure was filled with surging battle intent. Jian Chen sensed the pressure carefully. For some reason, he felt familiar with the pressure as if he had felt it somewhere before. Suddenly, an idea flashed through Jian Chen's head. He growled, "This is a fragment of a Tian-level Saint technique." Saint techniques were how the people of the Sea realm referred to battle skills, where they split them into the 4 levels of Tian, Di, Xian and Huang. Tian-level Saint techniques were Saint-tier battle skills on the Tian-Yuan continent. All the other people stared at the stone board in Jian Chen's hand with burning interest when they heard that. However, they became disappointed soon after. Xia Wang sighed and said, "It's a pity that it's incomplete. It's useless." Even when complete, Tian-level Saint techniques are extremely difficult to comprehend. There are even many 16th star experts who have failed to grasp one. That's even more impossible with the one incomplete right now. If we don't collect all the pieces, this fragment will remain useless, Mog said with a sigh as well. Jian Chen lowered his head in thought. He could still remember clearly that when he had assisted the Jessen kingdom in repelling the 4-kingdom coalition all those years ago, he had once cleared out a kingdom's treasury. In there, he had surprisingly found a fragment of a Saint-tier battle skill. However, that fragment clearly did not match up with the one that they had just found, as the two were different battle skills. Afterward, Jian Chen examined the 3 other items. The space ring was filled with large quantities of grand-quality crystal coins, reaching into the tens of millions. There were also several monster cores besides the coins, ranging from Class 5 to Class 7. There was even a Class 8 monster core. An incomplete cultivation method was recorded inside the thin book. It was only a small part of it. The letter contained the Octaterra Emperor's comprehension of his cultivation as well as some matters regarding the latter part of his life. It too was incomplete. Other than the space ring, the other 3 objects are all incomplete. They're basically trash. This Octaterra Emperor sure likes to mess with people. Newbies could not help but curse. Jian Chen paid no attention to Newbies' grumbling and looked toward the others. He asked, "How do you want to split these items? Does anyone have any good suggestions?" Mog and the 3 others glanced at each other when they heard that. One of them then spoke a suggestion: "The ruler's strength is extraordinary and will be more capable of protecting these items. As a result, I would recommend placing the objects in the ruler's possession for now. We can discuss how we split it in detail after we've left the hall." I agree with this suggestion. Everyone else agreed to this suggestion and Jian Chen accepted it as well. He put everything away into a separate space ring. They checked through the hall once again. They had virtually flipped the entire hall upside down, but they found nothing else. They then left the area. They entered another hall that had not been entered yet. As soon as they got out, breaking through a formation, they successfully obtained what was stored inside. However, the things inside were all exactly the same. There was a space ring that contained a small fortune, an incomplete letter, an incomplete cultivation method and a small fragment of the Saint-tier battle skill. Afterward, they entered a third hall. They obtained the exact same objects as before. It seemed like everything in each hall was the same. Looks like the Octaterra Emperor has divided the items into countless pieces and placed them in each hall. You would need to obtain all the other pieces to get the whole item. The Octaterra Emperor actually wants us to kill each other. Jian Chen's face sank as he reached an understanding of the Octaterra Emperor's intentions very quickly. Of the items the Octaterra Emperor had left behind, everything could make people drool regardless if it was the incomplete Saint-tier battle skill, his comprehensions, his understandings regarding cultivation or his cultivation method. Even 16th star experts would find it to be an irresistible enticement. Jian Chen could already expect that there would be a brutal massacre between the 160 experts that had entered the Divine Hall. Chapter 9:18, A Barrier's Obstruction. 1. We've entered a total of 4 halls and all the items in them are exactly the same. I'm pretty sure that the other halls will have the same items. Looks like only by gathering items from all the halls will you get the complete Tian level Saint technique, cultivation method, and comprehension of cultivation from the Octaterra Emperor, Nubis murmured as he too had thought of this. His eyes flickered a few times, vaguely revealing a vicious light. Clearly, he had already thought about what he needed to do. A gleam of light flashed across Mog's eyes when he saw Jian Chen and Nubis' expressions. Ruler, we might as well just gather all the other parts. They're all invaluable treasures. The Tian level Saint technique in particular, other than the 3 halls, no one else in the vast sea realm has possession of any. If the ruler is able to return to the Turtle Clan with the complete technique, it will definitely cause the clan's strength to skyrocket. Mog was hit with Xie Wang's retort as soon as he finished speaking. Are you crazy? We only have 7 people including you and me. Do you want us to fight with over 114th star experts that are no weaker than us? Plus, since they're able to enter this place, they're definitely all people of talent. Every single person will possess extremely strong strength in battle. And who knows, they might be hiding powerful trump cards. You never know, someone might have grasped a Tian level Saint technique. They'll be very difficult to handle. Mog stared straight at Xie Wang and said confidently, it's not like you haven't seen the ruler's strength. Do you really believe they're the ruler's opponent? It's a piece of cake if the ruler wants to kill them. So what if they know Tian level Saint techniques? They won't have the time to cast it at all. Jian Chen, what do you think? Nubis looked toward Jian Chen in thought, clearly wanting to listen to his decision. Jian Chen shook his head. Let's not worry over this for now. We're still in the central region of the Divine Hall, so there's still a long way to go. Also, I believe that the objects toward the end will be even more valuable. We don't need to fall out with everyone over these small things and fight each other to the death. Alright, let's stop this here and let's go. With that, Jian Chen directly exited the hall. No one had realized that an undetectable sliver of disappointment had appeared in Mog's eyes. At this moment, almost all the other halls had been emptied out by others. All the doors were wide open, while whatever that was inside had been taken away. Many saint rulers stood around cautiously with their groups in the surroundings, each and every one of them filled with vigilance. They clearly had discovered the secret of the halls as well. Everyone, may I ask if the items you've obtained from each hall are the exact same? That they are a fragment of a Tian level Saint technique, the Octaterra Emperor's comprehension in cultivation, the Octaterra Emperor's cultivation method and a space ring? At this very moment, a heavy voice rang out. It echoed through the entire region and everyone heard it clearly. The speaker was a burly middle-aged man. He was bare-chested, revealing his powerful muscles, and he wore shorts underneath. His attire was extremely simple, but he radiated with a wild presence. He seemed like a brutal, feral beast. The surroundings fell into a silence. The people who recognized this man revealed expressions of fear. The man was a renowned expert of the Heaven's Spirit Hall. His name was Thisnik, a genius of a large clan as well as a ruler of that clan. In just 1,000 years of cultivation, he had reached the peak of the 14th star and had even grasped a Tian level Saint technique that he could cast proficiently. He was extremely powerful. Very few people dared to provoke him. There was even a rumor in the sea realm that Thisnik had recently been practicing a wondrous ruler technique that delayed his cultivation. Otherwise, he probably would have reached the 15th star long ago. Any ruler possessed talent that was no weaker than beasts of antiquity. They were destined to become as powerful as hall elders in the future or even emperors. They could not be underestimated. Thisnik slowly scanned the surrounding people with a sharp glare, causing many of them to hide their expressions. He laughed and said, "Everyone, I guess many of you understand that this is a scheme of the Octaterra Emperor. He has split the item into many pieces and placed them in different halls for us to obtain, with intentions of making us kill each other." Thisnik paused, then continued, "Correct, I need to say that the Tian-level battle skill, the Octaterra Emperor's cultivation method, and his knowledge and experiences of cultivation are treasures you can't just go looking for, but don't forget that we've only reached the center of the hall. I believe there will be even more precious treasures toward the depths, so there's no need for us to fight to the death over these objects before us and give up on the other treasure in the depths as a result." As soon as the people heard his words, many of them had a change of heart. They immediately understood, and the hostile aura from everyone decreased slightly. "Looks like we're not going to end up fighting," Nubis said from behind Jian Chen with a slightly disappointed tone. He seemed to only be eager for everyone to start fighting. "Let's go," murmured Jian Chen. They passed through the many halls and walked toward the depths. He did not worry at all over the Saint-Tier battle skill fragments, pieces of cultivation method, or the Octaterra Emperor's experience in cultivation. Currently, everyone was in the sealed Divine Hall. As long as no one could find the way to get out, no one could leave. He would have his chance to collect all the pieces and fragments later on. Jian Chen's group was the first to leave. They made their way unhurriedly down the wide path among the halls, immediately drawing the attention of many people in the surroundings. Everyone present was still wavering in a mental stalemate, so anyone who dared to leave confidently at this moment was naturally very attention-catching. "It's that terrifying turtle ruler." All the people revealed a silver of extreme fear when they recognized that the person at the very front was Jian Chen. Before, when they hunted the vicious beasts, Jian Chen had repelled 7 experts in one stroke and had even heavily injured them. This shocked everyone. From that moment onward, everyone's gaze toward Jian Chen underwent an overwhelming change. Who was it that said that members of the Turtle Clan had better defense and weak attacks? The appearance of this Turtle Clan ruler had completely overthrown their prior knowledge of the clan. Thisnik stared deeply at Jian Chen's back as a sliver of hostility appeared in the depths of his eyes. He thought, "Ruler of the Turtle Clan, you will become a powerful opponent of mine. We will end up fighting sooner or later. I just wonder if you're stronger or am I on another level?" There was only one legacy of the Octaterra Emperor. It was destined to only be obtained by a single person of the 160. The Divine Hall definitely would be dyed with the blood of saint rulers for this legacy. There were many other famed experts besides Thisnik among the people who had entered the hall. Although they were not as well known as Thisnik, they possessed many hidden trump cards, none of which would be easily dealt with. Virtually all of them had come for the legacy, so if they wanted to obtain it, they needed to eliminate the strongest competitors first. Undoubtedly, Jian Chen and Thisnik were the top competitors to them. Unknowingly, the outstanding Jian Chen and the renowned Thisnik had already become the thorns in many people's backsides. They were 2 great targets that needed to be eliminated. The other experts all left with various thoughts and feelings after Jian Chen's departure. They all made way for the depths of the Octaterra Divine Hall. There were various formations hidden in the Divine Hall, but none of them were more powerful than the ones on Dragon Island. With the corrosion of time, none of them were as powerful as they had once been before. Jian Chen's group blazed through the obstacles, breaking through many formations and barriers. They finally arrived at the very depths of the Divine Hall. A huge hall stood in the very depths of the Divine Hall. It had a total of 9 floors, while each floor was over 30 meters tall. Jian Chen's group arrived before it, lifting their heads from the front entrance to gaze at how grand it was. Suddenly, they all experienced a false impression. Weirdly enough, they felt as if the hall was a world. It represented a sky, resonating with the earth from afar. It was filled with a vast presence. More and more people gathered outside the hall. The other experts had come as well, and many were in a horrible shape, clearly quite tormented by the formations. There was barely anyone who remained uninjured. However, no one had lost their lives. Along the way, they had obtained a pitiful amount of things. Other than some monster cores they had obtained from killing the vicious beasts earlier, everything they found in the halls was incomplete and useless. This hall should be the core of the Divine Hall. This definitely would be the place that the Octaterra Emperor once lived, so there would be quite some treasures inside. There are definitely quite a few treasures the Octaterra Emperor has left behind, but we've only seen a bare minimum along the way. I think the treasures must all be in the hall. The Octaterra Emperor's legacy must be inside. It must be much more dangerous inside as well. Everyone participated in gossip, all staring at the hall with gazes of burning greed. Once they obtained the legacy of the Octaterra Emperor, they would be destined to become an emperor. This was something irresistible to all of them. Although everyone felt extremely impatient, no one moved. Everyone wanted to inherit the legacy, but no one wanted to be the one leading the way. Unknown danger lurked before them, so it was extremely likely for the person who entered first to die first as well. Jian Chen did not move either. Instead, he stood there and inspected every part of the hall. He expanded his presence to his maximum, but it could only expand to less than 1,000 meters away. It could not pass through the structure and could only observe slightly more than the naked eye. Chapter 919, A Barrier's Obstruction. 2. Jian Chen did not move either. Instead, he stood there and inspected every part of the hall. He expanded his presence to his maximum, but it could only expand to less than 1,000 meters away. It could not pass through the structure and could only observe slightly more than the naked eye. A while later, Jian Chen seemed to discover something. A faint smile formed on his lips and he walked forward without any hesitation. His movements immediately drew the attention of everyone. They all stared at him fixedly, wanting to use him to test the path ahead. At the same time, they charged up their power, ready to rush in at any moment. Jian Chen walked slowly, approaching the grand hall a step at a time. When he reached 100 meters from the hall, a powerful ripple of energy immediately appeared from below and a blue barrier quickly rose up. It formed a circular shape, enveloping the hall inside and blocking Jian Chen outside. "There's actually a barrier protecting the hall," cried out people from the crowd. All of them were filled with joy. This was just evidence that the hall definitely stored extraordinary treasures. Jian Chen stabbed at the barrier with his king armament, but it did not even tremble. Its defense was unimaginably powerful. Jian Chen's face sank slightly as his eyes flickered a bit. The innate ability of the winged tiger god flashed across his mind before he cried out, "This barrier is extremely powerful. It can't be broken through by just a single person. Everyone, why don't we work together to break it? We need to break this barrier if we want to enter the hall." I, Thisnik, agree with the ruler of the Turtle Clan's suggestion. I am willing to chip in a portion of my strength to break the barrier. Thisnik was the first one to speak his thoughts. Afterward, the other people all agreed to participate. They reached an agreement between everyone very quickly. Vast ripples of energy surged from them. In that moment, they all began to move, charging up a powerful strike to break through the barrier together. No one was excluded. With a signal, over 100 experts struck out with powerful blows. Over 100 ripples of powerful energy shot from their hands in unison and collided forcefully with the barrier. With a boom, the violent residual energy formed a terrifying storm as it wreaked havoc in the surroundings. It knocked all them backward and no one was able to keep a stable footing. The blue barrier around the hall rippled gently as if a pebble had been tossed into a calm lake. It returned to its previous state very quickly. The attacks from over 100 saint rulers could only have such a tiny effect on the barrier. They all became stern when they saw this. The strength of the barrier had far exceeded anything they had expected, almost to a level where they refused to believe its strength. That Octaterra Emperor's too great of a bastard for leaving behind such a strong barrier. Even 15th star experts would find it very difficult to break through, let alone us. Some people curse it involuntarily. The way out should be in the hall as well. That means if we can't enter it, we can't leave. Does the Octaterra Emperor intend to trap us all here until our deaths? What does the Octaterra Emperor want? Only peak 14th star experts can enter his divine hall, yet he's made the barrier so tough. He clearly doesn't want us to enter. Does he really want to trap us here forever? All the people revealed extremely ugly expressions as they cursed furiously. Jian Chen frowned in thought before speaking aloud, "Calm down, everyone. The strength of this barrier exceeds our imaginations, so if we want to break through it, we can't hold back at all. Why don't we try once again, but this time with our full strength, and see if we can break through it or not?" Currently, that was their only hope. Everyone immediately agreed and began moving together. Terrifying ripples of energy began to radiate from each and every person, this time several folds more powerful than before. Everyone was virtually using their strongest attack now, striking out with holding back anything. An extremely frightening stream of energy forcefully struck the barrier. As it was the full-powered attack from over 109th heavenly layer Saint Rulers, it was so powerful that it could even slay 5th heavenly layer Saint Kings. However, the results were the same as before. The barrier only trembled slightly and had easily resisted the terrifying attack. This time, everyone's faces sunk to a dark hue. The Octaterra Divine Hall was completely closed, so only by entering the hall ahead would there be a chance of leaving. If they could not break through the barrier, they would be stuck there. A forceful light flickered through Thisnika's eyes. He called out, "Let's do it again. I hope no one holds back anything. Those who can use Tian level saint techniques, use them. And that power in your bodies, use that too. If we can't break through the barrier, none of us will be able to leave." A great aura immediately radiated from Thisnik. Following it closely, a terrifying pressure descended from the sky, through the obstructions of the divine hall and filling up the entire space. Air stopped flowing while everything fell silent. Time seemed to have stopped. Thisnik had been forced to use his Tian level saint technique. Many saint rulers present also revealed determined expressions when they saw what Thisnik was doing. They no longer bothered with any hiding, unleashing their greatest trump cards. Immediately, over 20 terrifying pressures descended from the sky. Over 20 Tian level saint techniques were being cast in unison. The pressure from was enough to make the sky to tremble. Even within the Octaterra Divine Hall, space was greatly affected as it distorted. The other saint rulers all experienced a stifling sensation. The pressure made breathing difficult. Over 20 Tian level saint techniques were cast in unison. The Sea Realm had never experienced something so grand. Jian Chen's heart shivered. Tian level saint techniques were extremely difficult to comprehend, to the point that even some saint kings could not use any. He never thought that there would actually be over 20 people out of the 160 that had entered who could use them. This had far exceeded anything he had expected. The saint techniques were charged up very quickly. In that moment, all the other experts did not bother to hold back anymore either. They all used their trump cards, using their Saint King's power if they had any, and charging up their strongest attacks if they did not have any Saint King's power. Jian Chen did not sit around either. His king armament shone with a dazzling dark light as destructive energy coiled around the weapon. It radiated with a chilling aura. Attack! As Thisnik yelled out, everyone struck out together. The Tian level saint techniques and over 100 strands of Saint King's power coiled together into a dragon, colliding forcefully against the barrier with devastating strength. Boom! With a deafening sound, the attacks collided with the barrier, causing it to shake violently. However, it stabilized very quickly once again and did not shatter. The attacks from all of them immediately transformed into a violent storm of energy, shooting back and colliding violently with them in the end. All the people were knocked into the air by this rebound of energy. Many became heavily injured as blood spurted from their mouths, dyeing the air red. If it were not for the fact that the barrier had absorbed a large portion of the attacks, probably no one would still be alive. They were all knocked thousands of meters away before falling onto the ground in a horrible condition. They were all pale-faced, while Jian Chen and Nubis were not exceptions to this either. Both were injured by the terrifying energy. However, Jian Chen was protected by his chaotic body, so he was better off than everyone else. All he suffered were some insignificant scrapes. However, everyone became stunned when they saw how the barrier was completely fine. They all became despaired. Over 20 Tian-level saint techniques and attacks from over 100 experts had failed to break the barrier. The barrier's strength had completely overthrown what they had expected. It just was not something they could break through. Roar! Suddenly, loud beast roars rang out in the surroundings and the ground soon began to tremble gently. The figures of countless vicious beasts had appeared from all directions and they all charged at the people with bloodshot eyes. They were innumerable, far more than the horde they had initially encountered. God damn it, these beasts just have to come when we're all injured, don't they? And there are so many. How are we going to deal with them? Perhaps we need to use a similar method to how we escaped the maze to enter the hall? That we need to use the blood of these vicious beasts to complete a formation? There's no time. Everyone focus on healing or we'll all die in the mouths of these beasts. Everyone immediately began to take their respective medicines and pills, using every moment to heal their wounds and recover their consumed energy. Virtually every person present belonged to a large organization, so the medicines they used were all very renowned through the sea realm and very valuable. Some of them were even on par with radiant spirit pills. Their complexions took a turn for the better as soon as they consumed the medicines. It was unable to allow them to achieve a full recovery in such a short amount of time, but at least it had stabilized and reduced their wounds. The surrounding horde of beasts was packed together densely and extremely numerous. Soon enough, all the saint rulers were surrounded by the tide-like beast horde, while another bloody slaughter erupted once again. All the beasts ranged between Class 5 and Class 7, with some Class 8 beasts sandwiched in between. It pressured everyone greatly, injuring quite a few people in a short time. With no other choice, those people could only use the sparsely remaining Saint King's power to condense another suit of armor as they took pills and medicines like candy. Jian Chen, Nubis, and Xia Wang all participated in the slaughter of the beasts with everything they had. They were dyed in blood, making it difficult to tell whether they were person or beast. Nubis' hands were golden, constantly stabbing beast after beast. He would use his poison to suppress the beasts first and then tear them into pieces. From the tips of his fingers, golden threads would shoot out from time to time, tunneling into the heads of Class 5 and Class 6 magical beasts. It would kill them in one stroke and take their monster cores. The king armament in Jian Chen's hand constantly danced about, enveloping the surroundings with blurs and ending the lives of the beasts mercilessly. All the Class 5 and Class 6 beasts could not even withstand a single blow from his sword, falling from just a single strike. Only Class 7 magical beasts could last for some time, but they too would not be able to avoid death in the end. Thisnik roared out angrily as he constantly bisected beasts with the two blades in his hands. He had already formed a path completely forged from beast corpses behind him. Chapter 920, Hanging by a Thread. Thisnik was also covered in blood. Despite his powerful strength, he struggled to remain unscathed when faced with the attacks of so many beasts at the same level of cultivation. His burly body was covered with tooth marks and slashes from the beast's claws, while he had already been dyed red by blood. It was unknown whether this was his own blood or the beast's. Nubis was also covered in injuries, becoming bloody all over as well. Perhaps only Jian Chen remained unharmed out of all 160 experts. The defense of Jian Chen's chaotic body was so great that ordinary Class 7 vicious beasts were unable to cause him any harm, their sharp claws and teeth unable to pierce his skin. Only the beasts beyond Class 7 could pose some threat to him, but Jian Chen would kill them off as soon as possible whenever he discovered any. Xia Wang, Mog, and the others stuck closely to Jian Chen and Nubi's back. They were relatively weak compared to Jian Chen and Nubi's, so they struggled very much to fend off the attacks from so many beasts. As a result, they too were littered with injuries. Battle cries resounded everywhere, while the violent rumblings from the collision of energy constantly rang out. Violent energy ripples wreaked havoc throughout the entire hall, and the ground was dyed red with blood. There was so much blood that a small pool had basically been formed. Suddenly, the amount of blood on the ground began to decrease rapidly. It sank into the ground quickly, before it all flowed toward the hall in the barrier. No one noticed this. At the same time, an extremely powerful soul rippled through the hall as if a great, sleeping spirit was slowly awakening. The rippling of the soul was blocked by the barrier, so it did not make it out. None of the experts fighting outside could detect it. 20,000 years. People have finally come in. Kill, kill, kill to your heart's content. Let the blood dye this divine hall red, a hazy voice sounded in the empty hall. It was impossible to tell whether it was male or female, but it was filled with malevolence. No one knew about the weird phenomenon inside the hall. The experts fought with the thousands of beasts for 3 whole days before finally killing off all of them. Countless Class 7 beasts had died in their hands, while even the number of dead Class 8 beasts reached over 20. However, they were all below the 5th heavenly layer. Currently, the ground was littered with beast corpses. Over 100 experts sat on top of the corpses as they breathed heavily, trying to catch their breaths. Their faces were filled with exhaustion. They were covered with terrifying wounds and were currently in a horrendous shape. The battle was extremely intense. There were many more beasts this time, and they were all much more powerful than the horde they had encountered at the start. They had also struck exactly when they were all heavily injured, taking them by surprise. From that battle, almost everyone had expended all of the Saint King's power stored within them, while barely any medicines and pills were left. Over 40 experts had died in the battle. They had all fallen to the claws of the Class 8 beasts, leaving a little over 100 alive. If it were not for the armors condensed from the Saint King's power among the people alive, they probably would have fallen long ago and be dead by now. Jian Chen was in the best condition out of them all. Although he had been injured by Class 8 magical beasts, he could recover automatically without any medicines thanks to his chaotic body's powerful regeneration. Currently, he worked at leisure through the mountainous piles of corpses to collect monster cores. Thisnik sat cross-legged on the corpse of a Class 8 magical beast as he recovered silently. He stared at the busy Jian Chen as he said emotionlessly, "The ruler of the Turtle Clan sure has great defense. I've witnessed it today." Jian Chen raised his head to glance at Thisnik after hearing that but said nothing. He then continued his collection of monster cores. These monster cores seemed to be more important than leaving to Jian Chen. At this moment, Jian Chen seemed to realize something. He froze as he cried out, "The blood on the ground has actually all disappeared." When they heard this, all the remaining experts immediately flipped through the corpses as they ignored their wounds. They uncovered the tough ground after kicking aside a few dead bodies. The ground was extremely dry. Other than a few pieces of vicious beasts, there was no blood at all, not a single trace. Odd. Where'd all the blood from the beasts go? There's no formation on the ground either. Is it different to escaping from the maze? Said someone in confusion. His voice was very weak. Look everyone. There's no blood in the bodies of the beasts either, cried out another person. With that, a few people immediately chopped up a few beast corpses. As expected, they found that all the blood had disappeared, without even a droplet remaining. Jian Chen's expression changed. He immediately thought back to when he was removing the monster cores from the heads of the corpses. He did not realize it then, but thinking carefully now, he actually did not see any blood either. "Look, their blood has run dry too," someone else cried out. An old man carried the corpse of a sea-race expert as his face was filled with shock. All of their faces darkened severely. This was so odd that it had exceeded their knowledge. No one knew whether this event was good or bad. "If my guess is right, the blood should have all been sucked away by the divine hall," an old man hypothesized after a while. That was the only way to explain everything that had happened. But why does the divine hall have to suck away the blood? A few confused voices rang out. They could not work it out no matter how hard they thought. At this very moment, the ground trembled gently once more. Heavy steps rang out from the distance as several vast presences filled the entire sky. This sudden activity caused the relaxed experts to raise their awareness. When they looked over in the direction that the activity originated from, each and every one of them became pale. 5 beasts, all over 30 meters in height, slowly made their way toward them. Each beast radiated with a terrifying aura, all at the 16th star. They were all of the 5th heavenly layer or greater. This bloody Octaterra divine hall. Why are there so many beasts in here? Now we're done for, we're doomed. Every person became despaired. Even at their peak, they would not be able to defeat the 5 16th star beasts, let alone now when they were all exhausted. They did not even have the power to deal with a single one, much less 5. Jian Chen also became grim. His eyes flickered as he secretly ordered the artifact spirit to awaken the white tiger within the saint artifact. If the situation took an irrecoverable turn for the worst, he would use the white tiger to pass through the barrier. The white tiger's ability to ignore all formations and barriers was Jian Chen's greatest trump card. Unless he was forced into a situation with no other choices, he definitely did not want to reveal the white tiger before all these people. "Jian Chen, what do we do? Those 5 vicious beasts are not magical beasts we can handle. If we stay here, there'll only be death. Why don't we enter the artifact space?" Nubi sent a mental message to Jian Chen. His voice was stern. Jian Chen stared fixedly at the 5 beasts as an idea suddenly flashed through his head. He called out, "Everyone, we need to get through the barrier if we want to live. These beasts don't possess any intelligence. If we use them correctly, we can completely rely on their strengths to break through the barrier." Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. Thisnik turned toward Jian Chen and growled, "Ruler, how much confidence in success do you have? Do you have any other better ways then?" Jian Chen countered with a question. "Alright, since we're going to die anyway, let's try it." "This is the only way we can live," boldly said a middle-aged man that was covered in blood. He acted like he had reached the end of his life, about to make one last struggle. "Alright, ruler of the Turtle Clan. I'll believe you once. I wonder what you would like us to do?" Thisnik said. He thought secretly, if he can break the barrier, then that would be for the best. Otherwise, I can only use this power to break through for myself. Jian Chen said with a deep voice, "We need to split up into 2 groups. Those who can use Tian-level saint techniques will form one. They will cast their techniques simultaneously, while the second group will stand before the barrier and attract the beast's attention. We need to get the beasts to attack us with their strongest strikes, before immediately dodging out of the way and attacking the barrier as well. When the attacks from the beasts hit the barrier, the first group will immediately strike it with their Tian-level saint techniques as well. I believe that over 20 Tian-level saint techniques along with attacks from 5 16th star beasts will be enough to break through the barrier." Everyone could not help but secretly nod when they heard Jian Chen's plan, agreeing to it in their hearts. They immediately moved in accordance, and all the people who could use Tian-level saint techniques gathered together. They took large quantities of medicines that recovered their energy, before beginning to charge up their Tian-level saint techniques. The remaining people stood in a formation, firing off powerful attacks after each other at the beasts that rapidly drew closer. With the violent booms, the 5 beasts were immediately enveloped by several dozen powerful ripples of energy. Although the attacks struggled to cause them any harm, it deeply aggravated them. The 5 beasts all produced deafening roars, charging toward the people wildly. The distance between the two groups rapidly decreased. However, just when the beasts were about to collide with the people, everyone dodged to the sides as fast as they could at the same time. Boom! The 5 beasts collided heavily with the barrier, producing a violent rumble. At the same time, everyone's attacks and the Tian-level saint techniques landed heavily on the barrier with an aura of destruction. The violent ripples of energy shook up the void, knocking everyone into the air. They all spurted blood wildly, worsening their injuries. No one paid attention to their wounds. Instead, they all stared unblinkingly at the barrier. It shook violently, before a 10-meter-wide crack finally appeared. It began to close up slowly. Everyone's eyes lit up with joy. Without any hesitation, they climbed to their feet as fast as they could and charged recklessly at the crack. The crack was closing up slowly and it would completely recover in a short time. Everyone grasped every moment to charge at the crack. This was their only hope for survival. Jian Chen was the least injured, so he was the fastest as well. Grabbing Nubis and Xiaofan by the shoulders, he used the illusory flash. He left behind a blur and traversed several hundred meters through the crack. Afterward, the other experts elbowed their ways into the crack as well. However, there was not time for everyone to enter as the barrier healed up very quickly. It blocked the slower, heavily injured people outside and they were consumed by the beasts in the end. Chapter 921, A Piece of Divine Quality Crystal Boom. Boom! Boom! The 5 vicious beasts did not stop after tearing the people outside to shreds. They constantly rammed the barrier, wanting to kill off all the people hiding inside. The 5 beasts were all of the 5th and 6th heavenly layer, so their attacks were extremely powerful. Every strike would make the barrier tremble violently, but it still would not be enough to break through it. Everyone finally relaxed slightly when they saw this, and their beating hearts finally calmed down. Their backs were all drenched in cold sweat. If they had been a little slower before, they would have ended up just like the people outside. Now, close to a third of the 160 experts had died. The lucky survivors did not leave. Instead, they sat down inside the barrier to heal. No one was certain about the upcoming dangers and they did not have the power to deal with anything that would happen in their current state. Jian Chen, Nubis, Xiaofan, and the 4 others all gathered together, recovering their energy at the same time. Every single one of them had exerted a great amount of energy in the past 3 days of beast slaughtering. They had basically survived the 3 days by depending on their medicines. Sigh, it's a pity that the incomplete items the Octaterra Emperor left behind are still with them outside. If we can't gather their space rings, it'll be impossible to complete the cultivation method, Tian-level saint technique, and the comprehensions of cultivation left behind by the Emperor. An old man stared at the distant corpses outside the barrier regretfully. His face was filled with pity. Jian Chen glanced at the space rings outside the barrier when he heard that. A light in his eyes flickered as he hesitated over whether to get Xiao Bai to pass through the barrier and retrieve them. This barrier was cast down by a saint emperor all those years ago and it still possesses a great strength. I wonder if Xiao Bai can pass through it successfully or not. Jian Chen could not make up his mind in that moment, but he gave up in the end after hesitating for a while. Elder Hongs told me before that other than the legacy of the Octaterra Emperor, there's also the Divine Hall. Only by reaching the core of the divine hall can I control it. I need to find a way to get there and then take the entire place. Jian Chen's gaze became steeled as he thought of that. Several days later, some of them finally made a full recovery. They regained their healthy glow, continuing into the hall energetically. Jian Chen did not stay either, bringing in Nubis and Xiaofan who were still recovering. Seeing how the trio had left, Mog and the other three hesitated slightly as they were still in recovery. They ended up giving up on the idea of continuing to heal, standing up and following Jian Chen in. The number of people near the barrier immediately halved with the departures. However, there were still several dozen experts who remained where they were, healing silently. They did not intend on leaving before they were fully healed because even if they came across any treasures, they would not possess the ability to fight for it. Jian Chen kept a low profile and traveled in the center of the group, while Thisnik walked at the very front. He had more Saint King's power than anyone else as he had not run out even after the 3 days of battle with the beasts. He was currently clad in extremely tough armor that had been condensed from the energy in order to prevent any ambushes as he traveled. It was extremely quiet as they made their way. Everyone climbed the stairs, finally arriving before the main entrance of a huge hall. Then they came to a halt together. "Everyone, let's push open the hall's door together," Thisnik said to the people behind him. His gaze paused slightly when he glanced over at Jian Chen, but he moved it very quickly. Everyone nodded silently, before forming an energy barrier around them. They began to push the door together. With a screeching sound, the heavy door was slowly pushed open by everyone. It was not like the halls from the center region where they were struck by a powerful gust of energy. It was slightly dark inside, but it was well decorated. It was filled with precious pieces of art and thus seemed extremely extravagant. The experts all quietly observed the circumstances within the hall before finally stepping over the high door sill after a while. They began to search quickly. "This is the furs from a Class 8 magical beast from the Tian Yuan continent. It's extremely precious, but I never thought it would be used as a rug," cried out someone. He currently stared at a large, white rug with an expression of happiness, and he soon put the entire piece into his space ring. "This is rarely seen spiritual wood. It can accelerate the speed at which energy of the world gathers, but who would think that it would be made into a chair? If I cultivate while sitting on it, it should increase my speed drastically," another expert said as he pointed at the seats on the 2 sides of the hall. He quickly began to store them away in his space ring. Many people immediately began to fight over the chairs made completely from spiritual wood. Over 10 people immediately began to grab the seats in fear that they would not get any, and everyone ended up with 1 or 2 of them. "I grabbed this chair first. Are you trying to take it from me? What do you mean you grabbed it first? I obviously laid my hand on it before you." 2 people began arguing as they each grabbed an armrest of a chair. No one gave in, so they began to fight very quickly. No one paid any attention to them. They continued their search. Suddenly, Jian Chen's eyes narrowed as his gaze landed on a huge, 10-meter-tall throne up ahead. It was completely blue in color as it shone with a hazy light. He could tell with a single glance that it was clearly extraordinary. Jian Chen could clearly feel an extremely powerful energy hidden in the throne. It was extremely pure, although it was the same water-attributed energy as the grand quality crystal coins, it was just too pure. The difference between the two was like the disparity between a Class 5 monster core and a Class 7 monster core. "Oh my sea goddess, what did I just see? Heavens, that's unbelievable. I can actually see a divine quality crystal." A cry rang out. It was an old man that he stared unblinkingly at the throne. His excitement caused his face to become flushed bright red as greed poured from his eyes. "There's a divine quality crystal. There's actually a divine quality crystal. My God, it really is a divine quality crystal. I've never even heard of such a huge piece. More and more people noticed the throne with the hazy glow as they all cried out. Their voices were filled with shock and disbelief, which was soon replaced by greed. It really is a piece of divine quality crystal. The throne is completely forged from divine quality crystal. This Octaterra Emperor sure is extravagant. Thisnika's eyes were also filled with greed. Divine quality crystals superseded grand quality crystal, the water-attributed energy within them was extremely pure. They could only be found by luck and only existed in legends. Many people could live their entire life without even seeing a single one. The piece before them was so large that it possessed an inestimable value. Everyone struggled to resist the enticement of the crystal, all charging forward, wanting to take it for themselves. The person closest to the throne had already arrived at it before everyone else. Just as he extended his hand out to touch it, a trident shot out from his side, forcing him to draw his hand back. In the blink of an eye, a chaotic battle erupted in the palace. For this piece of divine quality crystal, a large battle between everyone had erupted for the first time. The violent energy rampaged in the hall, but it failed to destroy anything. Thisnik also took part in the battle. He was extremely powerful, knocking people back one after another with his two blades, arriving before the crystal very quickly. No one was his opponent. However, just as he wanted to extend his hand to put the throne into his space ring, Jian Chen, who had only been watching from afar, finally struck out. Wielding his king armament, he radiated with a towering sword chi, as if he had become a sword. He was the sword, while the sword was him. Whoosh! Jian Chen left behind a blur and shot past all the others with unbelievable speed, arriving before the crystal. Shining with a dark light, the king armament stabbed toward Thisnika's arm that approached the throne with a devastating aura. Thisnik had always secretly kept an eye out for Jian Chen's movements. To him, only the ruler of the Turtle clan could pressure him greatly. Now that he saw that Jian Chen had moved, a sliver of cold light flashed across his eyes. He pulled back his arm, before chopping as hard as he could at Jian Chen with both his blades after a battle cry. The king armament collided with Thisnika's blades and a powerful ripple of energy immediately erupted. Their weapons seemed to be glued to one another, stuck tightly and unmoving. Only waves of powerful energy were sent out from the point where their weapons touched. They stared deeply into each other's narrowed eyes. Jian Chen remained emotionless and cool, clearly still calm. On the other hand, Thisnik was grim and his face had become extremely dark. Sandwiched between was a vague sliver of shock. Arg! It did not remain like that for long. Thisnik violently roared out and an even more terrifying energy surged from his body. Through the two blades in his hand, it slammed forcefully into Jian Chen's king armament. Boom! The stalemate was finally broken with a loud sound and both of them were knocked backward by the violent energy. Jian Chen stabilized himself several meters away and drew back his sword. He stared coldly at Thisnik. Thisnik glared back at Jian Chen in a similar fashion. However, his breath was slightly ragged, while his complexion had become quite ugly. Ruler of the Turtle clan, your strength has completely exceeded my expectations, growled Thisnik. From the single clash, he now knew that he definitely could not be Jian Chen's opponent. With a king armament, Jian Chen was as strong as a saint king of the third heavenly layer. Even though Thisnik was also very powerful, he did not possess the power to fight a third heavenly layer saint king. As a result, he suffered an utter defeat when he clashed with Jian Chen. At this moment, the giant crystal throne suddenly disappeared. When Jian Chen and Thisnik fought, someone had utilized the throne to mask themselves, approaching it silently from one side. They had stored the throne in their space ring and immediately fled into the distance excitedly. Chapter 922, Treasury. At this moment, the giant crystal throne suddenly disappeared. When Jian Chen and Thisnik fought, someone had utilized the throne to mask themselves, approaching it silently from one side. They had stored the throne in their space ring and immediately fled into the distance excitedly. A sharp killing intent flashed through Jian Chen's eyes. With the illusory flash, he became a lightning-fast blur and caught up with the person. Jian Chen's sword suddenly stabbed out, piercing through the person's back. The person roared out as the grand power of a Saint King surged from his body. It quickly formed a suit of armor on him, while a portion of the power condensed into an 8 cm wide energy ball in his left hand. It radiated with terrifying power. "Ruler of the Turtle Clan, if you're going to keep pressuring me, I'll die with you today," the person yelled as he attempted to threaten Jian Chen with the ball of energy. However, Jian Chen completely ignored his threats. He stabbed at the armor with his king armament. Ding! The collision between the weapon and the armor led to the screeching of steel, and a powerful force blew the person away. It covered his armor with cracks, before it disintegrated with a loud sound. The person fell heavily several dozen meters away. He was stunned when he saw that his armor had completely shattered. He knew exactly how powerful the defense of the armor was, as it had been condensed from the power of a Saint King. It could even remain unscathed after resisting the attacks from several Class 7 beasts, yet it had shattered under a single strike from Jian Chen. He was filled with disbelief. Impossible. The Turtle Clan has strong defense but weak attack. The ruler is clearly only at the peak of the 14th star, so why is he so strong? The person could not help but be astounded. But at this very moment, a blur flashed in front of him. Jian Chen had arrived and stabbed out with his king armament that radiated with dark light and an aura of destruction. "You asked for it, ruler of the Turtle Clan." Determination surged on the person's face. With a swing of his hand, he tossed the condensed energy. Jian Chen adapted his form, the king armament changed directions and stabbed toward the ball of energy instead. Boom! The Saint King's power was dispersed by Jian Chen's attack, leading to an eruption of violent energy that struck Jian Chen heavily. Jian Chen flew backward uncontrollably, now slightly injured. However, it was nothing that could affect him. His gaze became icy. This was something he would only show when killing intent surged in his heart. Leaping heavily from the ground, he used the illusory flash to continue his charge at the old man. This time, the old man no longer had any power to resist Jian Chen. All he could do was watch as Jian Chen drew near. SHWT. The center of the old man's eyebrows was pierced, allowing the sword to impale his head and wipe out his soul. Jian Chen smoothly removed the old man's space ring from his hand and checked through it. Only then did he relax slightly after confirmed that the crystal was inside. Jian Chen had already made up his mind about the crystal when he first caught a glance of it. Suddenly, Jian Chen's face sank. He could feel several presences locking tightly onto him. Over 10 people had already surrounded him, each staring at him viciously. Jian Chen's arm jolted and the king armament immediately began to radiate with a dark light. Its devastating aura filled the entire room, directly pressuring the people around him. It was extremely overbearing. "If you still want the crystal, come at me." Jian Chen pointed his sword at the sky as he spoke with a frigid voice. He flowed with a condescending aura, as if the people around him were nothing. "Ruler of the Turtle Clan, we don't want to become your enemies, but it's such a large piece of crystal. It's a little unreasonable if you take all of it. Why don't you take it out and split it up among everyone? After all, we all found it with you," a black-robed old man said with a deep voice. He was very fearful of Jian Chen, but the enticement of the divine quality crystal was just too great. Also, there were so many people present, so he believed that if they all worked together, the ruler of the Turtle Clan would not be able to fight them all no matter how powerful he was. Jian Chen raised the space ring high up in the air with his left hand and said, "The crystal is right here. If you want it, come take it. Ruler, you are indeed very strong." That is an irrefutable truth, but are you confident enough to take on my Tian-level saint technique? Said a young man arrogantly. He was one of the people who possessed a Tian-level saint technique. Wind began to whistle as soon as the young man finished what he had to say. Jian Chen then appeared before him with lightning speed, stabbing out at the center of his eyebrows without any hesitation. The young man was astounded. He had never expected that Jian Chen would take the initiative to attack. Saint King's power immediately surged out in an attempt to block Jian Chen's sudden attack. However, Jian Chen's sword was countless times faster than before. The sword seemed to overcome the laws of space and surpass the restriction of time, stabbing out with an unbelievable speed as a streak of light. SHWT. The young man did not have the time to condense his armor at all. The king armament had stabbed through his head with dumbfounding speed, wiping out his soul. What a fast strike! Cries rang out from the surroundings. Everyone's expressions changed. They were all stunned by the speed that Jian Chen had displayed. It was just too fast. They would end up in a similar circumstance if they had been caught off guard and faced the sword instead. And this was how a peak saint ruler who knew a Tian-level saint technique passed away. Everyone's gazes toward Jian Chen experienced a change while their fear for him skyrocketed. He was definitely a terrifying opponent. Jian Chen slowly drew his king armament from the head and said coldly, "So what if you know a Tian-level saint technique? Before me, you don't even have the chance to use it." The hall fell into a silence. Everyone stared at Jian Chen without saying anything at all. Thisnik stared at Jian Chen from afar as his gaze flickered. A sharp sliver of killing intent was hidden in the depths of his eyes, and he thought, "Ruler of the Turtle Clan, you are indeed very strong, but you will still die by my hand in the end." Jian Chen slowly glanced past everyone with a sharp glare. "Since no one wants to fight for it anymore, this piece of crystal is now mine." Jian Chen put the space ring away before continuing his search around the hall. The nervous atmosphere in the hall was immediately dispelled by Jian Chen's actions. Everyone gave up on the idea of fighting Jian Chen for the crystal, continuing their search for other treasures in the hall. The blood drained very quickly from the two experts that had died in Jian Chen's hands, sucked away by the ground without leaving a single mark. Although everyone saw this happen, no one could find any reason. As they could not think of why, even after deep thought, they tossed the matter aside and no longer paid attention to the weird phenomenon. Afterward, the people searched through the first floor of the palace for half a day. They took away many precious treasures, virtually emptying the first floor of everything it had. Only when they got everything did they move on to the first floor. The second floor also possessed many extremely valuable and rare items, which were quickly all taken away by the people. At this very moment, a loud rumble rang out from afar combined with the rippling of a powerful energy. The commotion attracted the attention of many people, causing them all to go up and investigate in curiosity. In the end, they arrived before a huge stone door, and above the door was a single, powerfully written word, "Treasury." "This must be where a large number of treasures are stored," someone cried out. He was filled with excitement. "There's no mechanism to open the stone door. Looks like our only way in is by smashing it." "Let's break it together," someone suggested. Immediately, several experts began to attack the door together. Within the booms, several ninth heavenly layer saint rulers struck the door together. However, it remained unharmed, without even a crack. The door has been tempered by the energy of the palace and has become extraordinarily tough. There's only the possibility of breaking through if we all strike together. What's everyone hesitating for? Everything inside must be treasures. There might even be divine quality crystals. Let's all open the door together. Several people used enticing words to motivate the entire group. They had all come here for the treasures of the Octaterra Divine Hall, so they reached an agreement very quickly. They all struck out at the door, including even Jian Chen and Nubis. With a deafening sound, the combined attacks from several dozen experts struck the door. However, it remained without a scratch. "Let's use our Tian level Saint techniques," someone immediately yelled out, before beginning to charge up his Saint technique. Seeing how someone had already begun to charge up their Tian level Saint technique, the others all began to hesitate, but a few joined him very quickly. They began to cast their Saint techniques together. The Tian level Saint techniques charged up very quickly and they all struck out at the same time, colliding with the door with lightning speed. At the same time, the other experts did not stand around either. They struck out with their most powerful blows, cooperating with the Tian level Saint techniques to break the stone door. Boom! An even more powerful sound rang out as the powerful force swept in all directions. It knocked everyone backward. The stone door trembled violently as clouds of dust fell from it. A tiny crack had appeared on its surface. "Let's continue our attacks. We can break the door if we do it a few more times," someone said loudly. Afterward, everyone struck the door together once again, while the number of people who had used Tian level Saint techniques increased to 18. Everyone used all they had to break down the stone door to obtain the treasure inside. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.